This boy's name is Kai. He was stabbed in the back by his own group of heroes, betrayed, humiliated, and worse. His own sister was taken from him, while everyone laughed, calling him pathetic. At the age of 15, he awakened the class of Dark Mage. In this world, only the strong are respected. The weak are discarded. Even after training until he bled, nothing changed. The hero drove his sword into Kai's chest and said he would never see his sister again, because now she belonged to him. As Kai's consciousness faded, he opened his eyes, 5 years in the past, on the day of the talent ceremony, and this time, he awakened a Dark Class 999. Now, he will take revenge on everyone who humiliated him. In the midst of the final battle, the hero Zu seems to have finally reached his limit. After a long journey, his party finally managed to corner the dreaded Demon King. We learn that he is a Dark Mage, the lowest ranked class, but it was all worth it because now he could finally reunite with his beloved Colette. Suddenly, the party's leader yells for him to stop the Demon King's movements. The mage then focuses and casts his blood prison ability. With this, he summons red chains to bind the target with full force. The energy claws surge forward at high speed, surrounding the monster from all sides. The creature is completely immobilized by the magic, letting out a cry of agony. The mage then shouts for the warrior Ares to finish the enemy once and for all. Ares, however, just flashes a wicked smile, preparing for the decisive blow. He then stabs his own brother in the back, bidding him a cold farewell. Immediately after, the warrior also attacks the Demon King, who was defenseless. The mage is shocked, realizing he would be eliminated along with the enemy. As he was dying, he watched his brother celebrate becoming the great hero. Fallen and powerless, the mage asks why he was betrayed by his brother. Ares then reveals himself to be of the hero class, the strongest of them all. He starts laughing, saying that a nobody with a pathetic class doesn't deserve glory. The protagonist is in shock, unable to understand what was happening. The party's saint agrees, stating that a dark and vile class was never their ally. But the mage objects, having used his magic to help the team all along. The female warrior of the party then starts laughing loudly, mocking him to his face. We learn that she is a mage of an ultra-rare class, and she calls him useless. He then laments his 5 years of hard work, all thrown down the drain. The scene shifts to a flashback, taking us to an old church in the kingdom. There, all 15-year-olds received a special class from God. On that day, he received the Dark Mage class and was scorned by everyone. It was a dark class, considered the lowest and most useless of all. Back in the present, the female warrior steps on him, screaming that he should just die already. With a cold gaze, Ares grips the hilt of his sword, preparing to finish him off. Ares then plunges the sword in, yelling that Colette is his now. In his last breath, the mage screams her name, feeling immense pain. The scene cuts to a flashback, where their engagement was broken off. Her father only allowed them to say goodbye one last time. At that moment, Ares leads her away, while our hero watches, unable to react. Colette then takes off her bracelet, an object of great value to her. She hands it to him, asking him to accept it as a farewell gift. The two look at each other sadly, knowing this was the end of their relationship. He is surprised as he knew how important that treasure was to her. Back in the present, the protagonist is shocked as he remembers her promise. With tears in her eyes, she says she's sure they'll meet again. Ares starts laughing, amused by his brother's naivety and misfortune. He then reveals that it was their own father who ordered the mage's execution. We learn that their father is the captain of the kingdom's strongest knights. The man said that a filthy dark mage was not needed in his family. He promised that if his son defeated the Demon King, he could return to the family. And as a reward, he would even get his engagement to Colette back. The girl was trapped in the castle, maintaining a protective barrier over the city. And to win back his love, he gave his blood, sweat, and tears to become stronger. With great effort, he finally reached the pinnacle of strength, level 999. But back in the present, Ares whispers that all his effort was a shame. The traitor then raises his sword, planning to pretend his brother died at the hands of the Demon King. The mage realizes he was used and curses his father and brother with hatred. Ares calls him annoying and promises he will take very good care of Colette. In his final moment, the mage's hand scratches the ground, showing his regret. He laments not running away with her to seek their own happiness. Suddenly, the bracelet glows, and he hears her voice begging him not to die. His last thought was that he just wanted to see her one last time. The scene changes, and a voice asks him how long he plans to sleep. The protagonist then jolts awake, completely shocked and confused. Opening his eyes, he finds himself face to face with Colette and doesn't understand how she's there. She asks what's wrong as he's in a cold sweat, but he can only stare at her. He then looks down at his body and realizes he has no injuries from the battle. The protagonist's eyes go wide as he tries to process what the hell is happening, but she just smiles warmly and wishes him a good morning as she wipes his face. He looks around the room, still trying to understand what was happening. The young man finds it strange. Colette should have aged, but she looks so young. He then apologizes, saying he was still a bit drowsy and out of it. As he turns, he faces the mirror in the room and sees a shocking sight. The protagonist notices that not only has he gone back in time, but his body has also grown younger. Colette tells him to get up quickly as they can't be late. She says she's really excited for the ceremony that will grant them their classes. He then remembers, realizing he's returned to the exact day of that fateful ceremony. Desperate, he grabs her and asks what year of the sacred era they're in. It finally clicks. He understands he hasn't received his dark class yet. Startled, he accidentally pushes her away, leaving the girl completely flustered. He apologizes, realizing he really has returned to the past and it wasn't a dream. But as he looks at his hand, a chill runs down his spine when he notices something bizarre. The mark of his former dark mage class was already there, on his skin. Colette sees the crest and asks why he already has a class before the ceremony. He's confused. If he went back in time, the class crest should have disappeared. With that in mind, he decides to use the command to open his status window. The screen shows he's still a level 999 dark mage with the same attributes, and a system note informs him that he's entered a second loop, maintaining his status. The protagonist interacts with the screen, not understanding what a second loop could be, but despite the confusion, one thing was clear. He had truly returned to the past. He remembers hearing her voice before he died and snaps back to reality. Suddenly, the bracelet he kept hidden falls from his sleeve and hits the floor. Colette is startled by the object, letting out a small gasp of surprise. She then picks it up, saying she thought she'd lost that bracelet forever. He then remembers the moment of his death and her plea for him not to die. With that, the protagonist finally understands the situation. Everything makes sense. It was the bracelet, combined with Colette's power, that brought him back to life. He starts to laugh with joy, leaving the girl confused by his reaction. With a victorious shout, he hugs her tightly, celebrating his return. Filled with hope, he thinks that with his current power, he can finally change the future. Colette gets flustered and asks what he meant by that dark mage comment. He then promises himself that he will change his destiny and never leave her again. The girl's face turns bright red, unsure how to react to the situation. She then stammers, asking what he meant by all those words. He pulls away and apologizes, saying he spoke without thinking, but she says she didn't hate it and was just surprised since they are engaged. The protagonist is shocked by her reaction and what she just said. He then plays it off, telling her not to worry because it was nothing. The hero remembers that the engagement will be called off if his father finds out the truth. His father always said that dark mages were filthy and closer to demons. Colette calls out to him, saying she doesn't think dark mages are all that different. He then remembers she was the only one who stood by his side the whole time. With this in mind, he decides to calm down and have a serious talk with her. She looks at him intently and asks what he wants to tell her. He reveals that he came from 5 years in the future, as a max-level dark mage. Colette is stunned by the revelation, unable to believe he came from the future at level 999. He then turns his back to her and says he's going to show her proof. Using his power, he begins to channel dark energy at his fingertip. The mage concentrates and summons an archdemon from the depths of the earth. The creature then appears, roaring, baring its sharp claws and teeth to intimidate. The girl is terrified by its appearance and screams in fear at the sight of the demon. The dark creature stares at her with its red eyes, ready to receive a command. He explains that he can summon high-level demons because he has a subjugation contract. This proves his magic is real and that his first life wasn't a dream. His wish to see Colette again came true, but he knows there's no time to waste. After all, today is the day of the ceremony, and also the day the Demon King is born. The protagonist then faces the creature, showing his complete control over it. Colette remains on the floor, still terrified by the presence of the demonic being. The archdemon then bows and asks its master for its orders. With a confident smile on his face, he prepares to begin his revenge. Colette calls his name, still on the floor and terrified by the situation. The demon crouches in front of him, displaying its terrifying size and power. With a smile, he snaps his fingers and calmly dismisses the summon. He then turns to her and asks if she now believes he's a sorcerer, but Colette says she never doubted him because she knew he wouldn't lie to her. The protagonist is moved, touched by her unwavering trust in him. She says it's incredible, since not even holy knights can defeat an archdemon. He then gets serious again and asks her to listen very carefully. The girl looks at him, a little scared, waiting for what he has to say. He reveals that Ares is going to become the hero, and that it absolutely cannot be allowed to happen. With that, he turns and starts walking towards the door, getting ready to leave. But suddenly, Ares appears in the doorway, asking if someone called for him. The hero glares at him with pure hatred, remembering all the betrayal he suffered. Colette senses the tension in the air and asks her fiancé what's going on. Ares then enters the room and asks where the archdemon he sensed went. He notices that remnants of the magic circle he used are still on the floor. Ares then scoffs, asking what his brother was saying behind his back. The protagonist tries to explain, but Colette gets nervous, unsure how to react. The traitor then looks at her and asks why she doesn't choose him instead of his brother. Angrily, the hero shoves Aries away and tells him to let go of the girl. He then glares at him with hatred and tells him to get out of the room immediately. But Aries draws his sword and asks what he's going to do if he refuses. The atmosphere in the room grows heavy, and Colette worries, calling out to her fiancé. Aries then steps on the magic circle, saying he's pathetic and shaking. The two brothers glare at each other angrily, while the girl stands between them, terrified. Suddenly, a man calls for Aries at the door, saying the Marquise is waiting for him. Annoyed, he sheathes his sword and replies that he was just on his way to meet his father. The protagonist breathes a sigh of relief, but he's still tense from the brief argument. He turns to Colette and says it's better if they go outside too. The two then leave together, leaving Aries behind, who watches them with a cold stare. He smiles at Colette, who returns it warmly as Aries watches them with envy. The two then go for a walk, strolling through the city's busy streets. He comments on how nostalgic the city feels, but someone calls out to him, surprising the couple. The protagonist finds it strange to be called Kai-sama, a title of respect. A shopkeeper then thanks him for getting rid of some bandits a while back. He realizes people still respect him because they don't know he's a dark sorcerer. Colette smiles and says that everyone admires him because he always tries so hard. The girl notices he's gone quiet and looks at him with a hint of concern. They then go to a quieter place so they can continue their conversation. He reveals that Aries will make a grave mistake as soon as he becomes the hero at the ceremony. Because of this, the future demon queen will be born, and the kingdom will fall in 3 days. Colette is in shock, horrified by the terrible prediction he just made. He explains that half the kingdom's population will be massacred because of it, and to protect the capital, she will be imprisoned to sustain a great barrier. After that, he will be exiled, and the two of them will end up separated for a long time. She despairs at the news and says she wants to be with him forever. With a smile, he invites her to run away and live with him from now on. Colette can't believe it and asks, blushing, if that was a marriage proposal. With that, she jumps into his arms and shouts that she's so happy and wants to be with him forever. He hugs her back, lamenting that he was such an idiot in his first life. The protagonist then feels regret, thinking he should have hugged her much sooner. The scene changes, and he puts her on a horse, asking her to hide in a remote village, but she's worried and asks if he isn't going with her. He then reveals he's staying behind to stop Aries and the birth of the Demon King. She smiles and says he's protecting everyone, and he agrees a bit awkwardly. Colette then says goodbye, promising to wait for him no matter what. He smiles back warmly and promises to finish everything and come get her. But in truth, he was doing it all for himself, to save the demons. He's going to need their help to face the enemies that will come after him. It's because in his final battle, he learned the truth about the world from the Demon King. The Demon King remembers vowing revenge against the hero, his friend's killer. But at the time, Aries didn't even care about what happened, treating it all with complete indifference. Because the hero, the symbol of hope, was the cause of humanity's ruin. Now, with his power back, the protagonist prepares to prevent the tragedy. With a determined look, he begins his rebellion to finally change everyone's fate. The scene then changes, and we see our hero descending the stairs of a dark dungeon. Down below, Aries was holding a whip, threatening a mysterious prisoner. We see that it's Griselda, an elf who was chained up and badly injured. Filled with hatred, she glares at our hero and screams for him to kill Aries once and for all. She refuses to obey the order, screaming that she would never follow the commands of someone so disgusting. Angered, he cracks the whip on the ground, threatening her with the consequences of disobedience. She then glares at the shackles on her wrists, which serve to seal all her magic. He taunts her with a smile, asking what she would do if she weren't chained up. Suddenly, his face shifts to one of pure anxiety, revealing his fear and worry. He then grabs her forcefully, reminding her that she is his slave and must obey. Aries reveals that the prophecy foretells the birth of a hero, and he fears it might be Kai. If that happens, he knows his brother's marriage to Colette will be a certainty. Desperate, he screams that he won't allow it, because both Colette and the hero class belong to him. It is explained to us that the hero class is the strongest, chosen by the gods themselves. With it comes the hero's privilege, which allows one to steal and destroy without punishment. Aries goes mad at the thought, as no one can oppose the demon slayer, and as a hero, he could have any woman he desired, living a life of luxury. He sees Kai as an obstacle, and believes that if he kills him, the class will be his. Griselda then calls him trash, finding his reason for wanting power pathetic. Furious at the insult, Aries prepares to strike the elf with his whip again. He yells that he bought her to kill her, but she says she will never surrender to him. The villain then calls her useless trash and complains about all the money he spent. With a wicked smile, he draws his sword and says he'll give her what she wants. He then raises the weapon with both hands, screaming that he'll wipe out her entire kind. She shuts her eyes tightly, cursing him to regret this in the next life. But suddenly, another chained elf screams, begging him to stop. Griselda is surprised to see her awake and tells the girl to be quiet and stay out of it. Sasha refuses to obey, saying she won't just stand by and watch her lady die. She then offers to kill Kai, pleading with him to release Griselda in exchange. Ares glares at her with contempt and kicks the girl hard, finding the proposal absurd. He then points the sword at her, doubting that a weak demoness can do anything. Without hesitation, he stabs her in the chest, causing the elf to scream in pain and agony. Griselda panics and calls him a bastard, while Ares just smirks maliciously. He then grabs the wounded elf, asking if that servant was so important to her. The villain just watches the scene, seemingly enjoying their suffering. He finds the scene touching and mocks them, saying some demons act like humans. Ares then twists the sword in the wound, saying his father used tricks like this. Griselda panics, realizing the cruelty and the danger her friend was in. With that, he gives her a chance, ordering the elf to declare herself his faithful slave. He smiles wickedly and says the order is simple enough even for a stupid demon. The elf explodes with rage, screaming at him not to mock her like that, but he threatens her, saying that if she doesn't obey, her precious servant will die. Seeing he's about to strike, she gives in and yells for him to stop, accepting the humiliation. Sasha begs her not to do it, telling her not to worry about her. But Griselda looks at her and says she needs her, showing that her decision was made. With her head bowed, she obeys his orders, surrendering completely to the villain. Sasha then despairs, yelling for her lady not to throw away her pride like that. The elf just looks back at her, her eyes filled with sadness and regret. Ares gets annoyed by the scene and asks if the two of them are ignoring him on purpose. Tired of this little scene, Ares says fine, he'll just end this quickly. He then says that since they're ignoring him, they can both just die right there. But suddenly, the cell door is struck by an incredible force and shatters. The villain turns around, completely shocked, unable to understand what just happened. Just then, our protagonist bursts in, blowing the door apart with his magic. Amidst the smoke and debris, the two elves look towards the prison entrance. They then see Kai, who is staring at them with his mage mark glowing brightly. He emerges from the dust, ready to finally confront his treacherous brother. Filled with rage, the protagonist screams with all his might, telling Ares to stop. The villain turns around, completely shocked to see his brother was there. With a flaming fist, Kai charges forward and lands a direct hit on the enemy's face. He then prepares a spell and fires a sphere of dark energy with full force. The impact is so strong that Ares flies backward and slams into the wall. The two elves stand with their mouths agape, unable to believe what they're seeing. Our hero then surveys the scene with a cold, hate-filled gaze. He turns to the two of them and says that thankfully he made it just in time. Griselda was still suspicious and asks him who the hell he was. He then recognizes her and is shocked to see that this girl would become the Demon Queen. An image of the future appears, while the elf is confused by the title she just heard. She stares at him, frightened, and asks if she was really destined to become that. He then looks at the other elf and is enraged to see what Ares did to Sasha. Griselda asks how he knows their names, but he tells her to wait. He then uses his magic and begins to heal Sasha's wounds with dark power. Griselda is shocked as Sasha's wound healed in the blink of an eye. He then says he'll heal her too, since right now she's just a slave. With that, the mage uses his dark healing, enveloping the elf in his purple energy. He also breaks the magical chains, surprising the girl with his powers. Her jaw drops as her wounds and chains vanished in an instant. The two then embrace, emotional to finally be free from that prison. They celebrate their freedom while our hero watches the scene with a smile. Sasha explains that she thought it was the end when they lost their lands to the hunter, Elsa. Hearing the name, he remembers the red-haired magic swordswoman. Griselda asks if he knows her, and he confirms, saying he knows her very well. The two become defensive, asking if he's one of that hunter's allies, but he immediately denies it, showing clear contempt just from hearing her name. It's explained to us that Elsa hunted demons for fame and money, joining the hero's party. He says that just thinking about her allies sends a shiver down his spine. Griselda thanks him, and upon learning his name, she realizes he is Ares' brother. Griselda questions him, as he is the top candidate for hero and shouldn't be helping demons. He then looks at her seriously and asks if she is willing to cooperate with him. The elf is confused by the request, not understanding what he meant by that. With that, he reveals he no longer has a place in human society, showing his mark. The two recognize the dark emblem and understand why he uses dark magic, but Sasha finds it all very strange, as his powers didn't seem normal. She thinks it's incredible that he can use such strong magic, but the fact is, he saved them. So Griselda dismisses the doubt and tells her servant that it doesn't matter, because she trusts him. At this, Sasha reveals that Aries said if Kai died, he would gain the hero class. The protagonist is in shock, unable to believe what he just heard. Griselda says she refused, as her noble lineage would never bow to trash like him. She then thanks him, because if it weren't for him, she would have lost her dear friend. The scene reminds us of the future, where she became the feared and hated demon queen. He understands why she fell into despair and caused so much destruction in the past, and all of it happened because of the man lying on the floor, his greedy brother. He stares at his fallen brother and wonders if he should just kill him right now to solve everything. But he remembers all the contempt and cruelty he suffered in his first life. A childhood memory then appears, showing the three of them together as children. Then, he thinks of Colette, and knows she would be heartbroken by this. Griselda then calls out to him, asking what he plans to do with his brother now. The protagonist closes his eyes for a moment, and says he already knows the answer. With a knife, he cuts the palm of his hand, making his blood drip instantly. From his blood, a small, bizarre creature emerges, leaving the two elves surprised. The creature then leaps towards Aries and shoves itself into his mouth. The two stand with their jaws dropped as he says that Aries swallowed the creature. Aries notices the mark on his face, and our hero confirms that it's a curse. Griselda is curious about it and asks what kind of curse he used. He then smiles and says it's one that will turn his life into a living hell. On the ground, Kai feels the curse and warns that Colette will soon understand what hell is. Meanwhile, Griselda watches from a distance, finding his curse quite impressive. Sasha is shocked, saying that not even the demons have perfected such magic. Kai then looks around, a bit lost, and starts to grasp the girl's situation. He notices their clothes are badly torn and becomes completely embarrassed. The two elves notice his gaze, feeling awkward about the state of their clothes. To solve the problem, Kai activates his dark magic and summons a shadow portal in front of him. From it, he pulls out some new clothes and suggests they change somewhere else. With that, the two head down a hallway, looking for a room to get dressed. Once in the room, Griselda asks Sasha to help her and tells Kai to wait outside. Kai promises he won't peek and remembers that Aries will soon receive the hero class. He thinks the damage is curable, but his real problem is the holy sword. Suddenly, Griselda calls out to him, revealing herself in a beautiful new maid's dress. She feels awkward in the outfit, admitting she's never worn clothes like this before, but Kai gives a sincere smile and tells Griselda the dress looks great on her. Griselda blushes at the compliment and thanks him shyly. Just then, Sasha also appears in a maid outfit, remarking how amazing Griselda looks. Griselda compliments Sasha back, saying the dress suits her very well too. But Kai interrupts them, saying he needs to explain something very important. They are shocked when he reveals he's from the future, and that Griselda will become the demon queen. He continues, explaining he was betrayed by his companions and ultimately killed by Aries. That's why he can no longer trust humanity, much less the hero's party. Hearing this, Sasha understands the story, saying his magical abilities make sense now. And the fact that Griselda becomes the demon queen seems like very reliable information. Griselda agrees and smiles, saying he is her savior and that she believes his story. She then turns to Kai and asks what their next step is. With a determined look, he announces their plan is to crush Elsa, surprising Griselda. She gets super excited by the news and shouts, asking if they're really going to do it. We learn that Elsa enslaved her people and stole all the resources from their land. Griselda sits down in distress, remembering that her people are still suffering under the tyrant. Kai pounds his chest and promises with conviction that he'll take everything back for her. With eyes full of hope, Griselda asks if he will really save her people. He just stares back at her, his serious gaze confirming his silent promise. At this, Griselda begins to cry with relief, saying she can now face her father with pride. While Sasha comforts her, Kai clenches his fist and says he has a request in return. He asks if Colette can live there too, revealing that she is his fiancée. Griselda's mood sinks a little, understanding that this is why he wants her cooperation, but she quickly composes herself and says that if that's all, then there's no problem at all. Kai then explains that Colette is about to receive the Saint class today. Desperate, Griselda warns that if he takes the Saint, the Holy Kingdom will hunt them down, but Kai reassures her, telling her to leave it to him, as he'll take care of everything. He maintains his firm expression, showing he's not afraid of what's to come. Suddenly, a red energy surrounds them, and the entire building begins to fall apart. In the blink of an eye, Kai grabs the two elves and gets them out of there safely. They reappear in the middle of the fire, and the girls are shocked at how quickly they vanished. Kai announces that the time has come and tells the two girls to stay behind him. Griselda is terrified, wondering how the enemy could have reached them so quickly. The scene focuses on the flaming rubble, showing the total destruction of their former hideout. Amid the flames, the silhouette of a man with spiky hair walks toward them. It's Ares, who emerges with a manic smile and asks Kai how he's feeling. Kai then glares at his glowing hand and calls him older brother with contempt. Ares lets out a crazy laugh, and Kai sarcastically asks what the problem is. He's shocked to see the mark on Kai's hand and accuses him of being the dark mage. Ares then boasts about becoming the hero, while Kai was stuck with the weakest class. Kai notices that the crest restored Ares' skills, who finally received the hero class. He screams maniacally that he's finally won, and that his time to shine has come. Seeing this, Griselda says with disgust that he's the worst kind of hero there is. Ares then warns Kai that he messed with him, and now he's going to make him pay for everything. He looks at his hand with the hero's mark, laughing that he never expected this day to come. With that, he summons his holy sword, Durandal, and bolts of energy explode around them. Ares holds the shining weapon with a smile, saying it's the proof of his justice. The girls are frightened by the sword's power, fearing that not even Kai can win. Kai then grits his teeth, remembering this was the sword that killed him in his past life. Amidst the flames, Ares tells his pathetic brother to cry and beg for forgiveness right now. But Kai is furious and asks if Ares really dares to point that sword at him. Ares scoffs at the power difference, yelling that no one can stand against him because he's the hero. Ares shouts with an arrogant smile, telling Kai to regret ever challenging the hero. But Kai simply ignores him, says enough talk, and calls him to fight. With a deathly glare, he warns that he's now going to show his brother true hell. Ares is outraged, wondering how a mere dark mage dares to challenge him like this. Then, Kai turns his back mockingly, walking calmly through the area. He taunts him, saying he'll break the sword and that Ares will never show his face again. With hatred in his eyes, Ares screams that his brother must have a death wish. He then charges forward with everything, promising to make Kai regret this bitterly. Kai observes the attack and admits the sword's magical power is truly immense, but he dodges with ease, thinking that with such swordsmanship, it's a sheer waste of power. Ares stops on the other side, surprised he hasn't landed a single hit. Annoyed, he yells for Kai to stop running and calls him a coward for dodging. But Kai knows he's only level 1, so there's no reason to be afraid of him. Suddenly, a notification appears, revealing he has the secret class Black Star. He's completely shocked by this information, as he's never heard of this class before. As Ares attacks, screaming for him to die, it's explained that this class is only unlocked by those who have already mastered dark magic. The Black Star allows one to learn dark attribute skills and accumulate points by committing evil acts. He thinks he can't do evil to learn the skills, but suddenly, a notification pops up. He gains 1,000 points for a splendid act, since helping demons is considered evil. With a smile, Kai understands that if that's the case, he can proceed without any issues. A list of skills appears before him, but one in particular catches his attention. Without a second thought, he spends his points and acquires the Demon Sword Summoning skill. Ares gets annoyed by the distraction and yells at him to pay attention as he charges forward to attack. But Kai dodges again and says he's too slow to ever hit him like that. Ares glares at him with pure hatred, unable to believe his younger brother's audacity. With his hand glowing red, Kai summons the demon sword, called Tearfing. The ground then begins to crack, and Ares is startled by the rising dark energy. A red sword emerges from the earth, and Kai firmly wields it in his hand. He recognizes the weapon and realizes it's the beloved sword of the demon queen, Griselda. It's Tearfing, a sword whose power increases according to the user's dark magic. For him, a level 999 dark mage, this is the perfect weapon for the fight. Ares is terrified by the sword's evil aura and asks what sinister weapon this is, but Kai just stares back at him with a cold, emotionless gaze. Kai feels the sword draining his magic, making him a bit tense. He turns to his enemy and comments that it's a high-maintenance weapon. Griselda is shocked and screams that it's her late father's demon sword. Confused, Ares asks what a demon sword is, not quite understanding the situation. Kai then swings the sword, launching a huge wave of energy toward Ares. Ares gets nervous and asks what Kai's objective is, but the attack flies right past him, destroying the building behind him. Completely confused, Ares stands frozen, unable to believe what just happened. Kai looks at the destruction and realizes he might not know his own strength. At this, Ares freaks out, screaming about the ridiculous power coming from the sword. Kai explains that's not quite it, and that the sword converts magic into destructive power. Suddenly, Ares understands everything, and a completely crazy smile spreads across his face. He starts laughing insanely, thinking Kai is just trying to surprise him. He explains the rule of elemental opposition, where light has an advantage over darkness. To prove it, he reveals his holy sword, which begins to glow brighter than ever. Kai recognizes the holy sword, calling it the strongest of the light attributes. Ares then smirks arrogantly, warning that he's about to show the power of his holy sword. With that, he concentrates an immense aura of light, preparing to attack with full force. But Kai isn't intimidated at all and challenges him to a fight with a smile. Ares then screams with all his hatred and charges forward, sword in hand. He unleashes his final blow, screaming for his brother to die, and says, "This is the power of a hero." A massive explosion of light engulfs Kai, completely devastating the battlefield. The girls panic, because if Kai takes that hit, not even he could survive. The attack hits him head-on, causing a powerful impact that shatters the ground beneath his feet. The dust then settles, revealing a giant crater where Kai used to be. The two elves are in total shock, unable to believe Kai was defeated so easily. At this, Ares starts laughing like a madman, yelling that there's not even dust left of him. He screams that from now on, it's his era, and everything will be his in the future. With a disgusting look, he says the women, and even Colette, are his now. Hopeless, Griselda falls to her knees, mourning Kai's death. Ares smiles maliciously, telling them they should have run when they had the chance. He then warns that they're next, and Sasha fearfully protects Griselda, but suddenly Kai appears behind him, thinking this was the moment he'd been waiting for. With a confident look, he asks if Ares really thought he had won the fight. Ares turns around, completely shocked, unable to believe what's happening. It's explained that the holy sword runs out of magic right after using a final blow. Kai recalls seeing this weakness many times, as the sword's power was depleted. With that, he yells that this is his chance, and shouts for the hero's sword to disappear from this world. He charges at Ares with everything he's got, and strikes the holy sword with his blade. With the impact of the blow, the holy sword finally shatters into pieces. Ares can't believe what has happened, seeing his sacred sword completely destroyed. The force of the impact then sends him flying, making him crash to the ground. He takes a deep breath, and realizes the sword's magic consumption is just insane. He thinks that if he had tried to use it at level 1, he would have self-destructed on the spot. 2 notifications appear, congratulating him, while Griselda shouts Kai's name. Griselda yells that he managed to defeat Ares, and Sasha thanks him for being alive. Kai just gives a slight smirk and observes the dark energy in his hand. They look at Ares' body on the ground, and Kai notices he's still breathing. Griselda worries that he'll revive, but Sasha explains that the skill only works once. Suddenly, a mark appears on Ares, and Griselda screams that his curse is reacting. It's explained that if he tries to harm someone, the emblem of light turns into the emblem of darkness. While the hero's mark brings honor, the cursed dark emblem brings the opposite. Kai reveals that this is his revenge, as Ares stole his brother's life. With the curse and the broken sword, Ares as a hero can be considered dead. He then looks toward the city gate and realizes the place is in absolute chaos. At that moment, Griselda rushes over to him and calls him Lord Kai, which surprises him. She grabs him, crying with emotion, because he defeated the hero and destroyed the holy sword. With a confident smile on her face, she says that now there's no doubt left. Griselda then declares that Kai is the savior of the demons and the new demon king. Kai is completely shocked by the declaration and wonders if he just became the demon king. The scene shifts to a forest where Colette wonders how Kai is doing. A small demon reassures her, saying Kai is likely stopping the birth of the demon king. She smiles and holds him, but says she was surprised to see him shrunken like that. He explains that his small form is a disguise, and that he'll protect her no matter what. Suddenly, he spots the capital, and warns that they need to hide from the Holy Knights. He explains that since she's missing, the Knights will surely be searching everywhere for her. Hearing this, Colette grows worried and hopes for Kai's swift return. The scene cuts back to the chaos, with Griselda shouting that Kai is the Demon King. He gets confused and grabs her, asking why she's calling him that. He asks her to calm down, but Griselda says the sword is proof that he is the king. Sasha agrees, adding that his feat makes him the strongest demon king of all. Kai stares at the two excited women, thinking this is a problem, because they truly believe it. But he reflects for a moment and realizes it could be quite useful to be accepted by the demons. With a sideways glance, he starts to consider the idea of becoming the new demon king. Griselda then approaches, saying they need to form a servant's pact right away. Kai is completely lost at the idea, and Griselda asks if he doesn't know what it is. It's explained that the Servant's Pact is a skill that grants power to the Demon King's servants. In exchange for this power, they must swear absolute loyalty and serve the king forever. He doesn't think he's ever seen this skill, so he opens his status screen to take a look. That's when he notices his list of unlockable skills has just grown. And there, among the skills, he finds the Servant's Pact, which costs 300 points. He understands the condition has been met, and that there are several levels to the pact. The screen also warns that betrayal leads to death, leaving Kai quite surprised. He wonders if this kind of pact is something that really exists in this world. Griselda confirms it, saying it is their duty to swear loyalty to the newly crowned king. She says he's a good person, and wonders why he's hesitating so much. Kai feels a bit awkward at the compliment and ends up agreeing to make the pact. He turns to the two on the roof and asks if they are absolutely sure about this. They kneel and reply that it's an honor and what they desire most right now. With the skill unlocked, Kai offers Sasha the honorable class of Demon General. Sasha is shocked by the offer, and Griselda asks why she doesn't accept, but Griselda comforts her, saying the class is also perfect for loyal people. Kai then turns to both of them and asks what they thought of his proposal. With that, Sasha kneels and swears loyalty, asking for the Demon General class. He allows the pact and grants the Demon General class to Sasha with a spell. Sasha feels the power flowing through her and is amazed by the new strength she's received. An immense energy overflows from her body, and a mark appears on her left hand. Griselda is impressed, understanding that this is the power of the king's servant pact. Kai is also surprised, thinking this is just the Demon General level. Then, Griselda kneels and asks to become one of his 4 heavenly kings. It's explained that Griselda has great potential and could even become the Demon Queen. He thinks that he never imagined making a pact with the future Demon Queen, Griselda. Kai then grants her request, bestowing the Heavenly King class upon Griselda. With the pact sealed, a pillar of dark energy shoots up into the city sky. Kai is speechless, and Sasha is also surprised by the emerging energy. Then Griselda begins to float in the air, a dark aura completely enveloping her. Sasha grows worried, watching Griselda in the middle of that pillar of red energy. But Griselda shouts that she did it, celebrating becoming one of the Heavenly Kings. Kai looks up, thinking that this was to be expected from the future Demon Queen. Sasha congratulates her friend, and Griselda says they now serve Lord Kai. At this, Sasha fills with determination and promises to do her best. Griselda hugs her and says that together, they will create a new world for demons. He watches them, thinking that destiny is changing with the Demon Queen's loyalty, but he knows it's not over yet and senses a strange movement approaching. Suddenly, a group of knights arrives, and the commander demands an explanation for what happened. With a hand on his sword, he glares at Kai with hatred and calls him an insolent brat. The divine knight Geese appears. He asks why Ares is down and why Kai is with demons. Kai steps in front of Griselda, shielding her from the knight with a serious expression. She asks who the man is, and Kai explains that he's the leader of the Holy Knights. He then glares at the man and angrily reveals that this is his own father. Meanwhile, the knights check on Ares and inform their leader that he's still breathing. His father confronts him, asking why he didn't show up for the class ceremony. With a smirk, Kai simply replies that he's now a dark mage. His father is shocked and yells, asking if he wasn't supposed to be the true hero. But Kai shows his mark and declares he will strive to become the Demon King. Geese recognizes the dark mark, confirming his son has indeed become a dark mage. He loses it and yells at Kai, saying he's lost his pride and the heart of justice. Kai clenches his fist tightly, questioning what this so-called justice even is. He remembers his father's justice, which was always based on torture and threats. He also sent Kai into exile and ordered him to kill the Demon Queen. To him, that's just ego, and if that's justice, he doesn't mind being evil. Geese accuses him of being corrupted, of thinking he could just carry on as before, but Kai tells him not to worry, as neither he nor the family are of any use to him anymore. With a snap of his fingers, he simply says that now they are all exiled. Suddenly, a huge fire erupts right behind the knights and his father. Geese turns around completely startled, not understanding where the massive fire came from. The scene shows the entire family mansion being consumed by the flames. A knight screams that the fire is everywhere, making Captain Geese desperate. People start running to escape as the stable also catches fire. His father turns around furiously and yells, asking what he has just done. He explains that he prepared everything beforehand and that no one will be hurt in the fire he set. With this, he earns more points and thinks that revenge works well with this system. On top of that, he even gets a skill that increases the power of his dark attributes. His father yells again, unable to believe what his son has just done, but Kai coldly states that the Austen family should simply cease to exist. With a hateful glare, he says this is his justice, and faces his father. Geese becomes enraged and screams at Kai, disbelieving what he just heard. He orders his knights to kill him, declaring that Kai is no longer his son. But with a swift move, Kai uses his magic and defeats all the soldiers at once. With a cold look, he just tells them to get some sleep and rest now. Geese is shocked by the scene and prepares to face his son alone. He yells at Kai not to get arrogant, as those men were just pawns to him. Kai says he already knows that and summons his demon sword, the mighty turfing. He then grips the sword firmly, preparing for the confrontation with his father. The two cross swords, and Geese struggles to block the attack. He's shocked by the sword's power and doesn't understand where it came from. His own sword begins to crack under the pressure, slowly shattering in his hand. Kai stares at him without any emotion and continues to press the attack against his father. In the blink of an eye, Kai cuts off his father's arm, which flies through the air. His arm falls to the ground, and Geese screams in pain from the severe wound. Fallen and wounded, a knight rushes to his side as the fire burns all around. Geese despairs and asks if Kai has abandoned his humanity, but he calls Kai naive and uses his healing magic to restore his arm. To his surprise, the arm doesn't heal, leaving Geese desperate. Kai then asks if he's noticed, explaining that the magic rejects any healing. It's a high-level curse that not even the Holy Maiden could cure. As a final act of mercy, Kai informs him that he at least stopped the bleeding. Geese doesn't understand how this is possible, since Kai just received his class. But a warrior who loses his dominant arm can already be considered dead in battle. With this, Kai realizes that his father's justice now holds no power at all. Geese is terrified and asks if Kai really has the nerve to kill him. Kai remembers Colette and his father's order for him to kill his brother. Geese is completely confused and asks what he's talking about. Just then, a notification congratulates Kai, giving him another 300 malice points. Kai then stares down at his fallen father, who is now surrounded by his defeated knights. But even in that situation, Geese breaks into a bizarre and completely maniacal smile. Geese then understands the situation. He realizes that if Kai isn't the hero, it can only be Ares. He shouts that Ares must have received the hero class, as Johann's prophecy is absolute, but Kai remains silent, just watching his father's desperate reaction. Geese starts to laugh and orders his knights to use healing magic on Ares to defeat Kai. One of the knights tries, but he hesitates to heal Ares, leaving the captain confused. Geese then looks at Ares' hand and is completely shocked by what he sees. He wonders if Ares also received the mark, and if Johann's prophecy was wrong, but Kai explains that the prophecy was never wrong, and that Ares did receive the hero class. It's just that his curse is camouflaging the mark of light, turning it into a mark of darkness. It is explained that Johann is the greatest threat, as his unique skill allows him to see the future. That's why Kai knows he needs to eliminate Johann as quickly as he can. Geese then stands up again, staring at his son with a look of pure hatred. Kai asks if Ares will be exiled, since the heir now has a dark class. At this, Geese falls into despair and yells that he can't let this happen. He laments the nightmare that his family's glory has become, not knowing what to do. Geese then orders Ares to be exiled, as the dark class is useless to the family. Kai just gives a slight smirk, watching the scene with a mocking look. He thinks that with this decision, Ares has just lost his noble status. With his objective achieved, he announces he no longer needs to stay and says goodbye to his father. Geese asks if he's really going to ally with the demons, unable to believe it. Kai confirms and recalls everything, saying that Colette is the only human he trusts. He then turns to the girls and tells them to leave with him. The two of them look at him with admiration, thinking that demons have a nobler heart. Kai then turns his back on his father, saying goodbye to him once and for all. They then reach the gate, and a knight on guard asks what's happening inside. Kai says there's no need for farewells and gives one last order to him. With a cold, serious look, he orders the knight to kill any pursuers. The knight is startled by the order, but agrees to do as he was told. With that, Kai uses his dark magic and vanishes from the spot in an instant. The knight is shocked by the scene, realizing that Kai simply vanished. They then reappear in a forest, and the two girls are shocked by the teleportation. Griselda gets excited by the magic and thanks Kai as they move away from the city. Excited, Griselda asks if they're now going straight to her territory. Kai agrees and smiles, but says he first wants to go to Colette's village. But then he has an idea, and decides to strengthen the two of them on the way, just as a precaution. The two are surprised by the idea, and ask if they can become even stronger. With a glow in his hand, he announces he will lend them his dark attribute enhancement. They feel an immense power, and Sasha shouts that it's too stimulating for her. It's explained that he can lend his skills without them disappearing from his own body. He gets a little embarrassed by their reaction, and the two thank him as they rest for a bit. The scene changes to the three of them resting as the sun begins to set in the forest. Kai then takes a bracelet from his pocket, which Colette gave him in his first life. Even though it's broken, he feels a magical power and suspects it's because of that skill. To confirm, he decides to spend his points and use the appraisal skill on the item. It's the Bracelet of Time, imbued with the magical power of the Saint of Time. He realizes it was her help that brought him back and remembers when he returned the bracelet. In the memory, Colette is crying as he promises they will meet again. Now, with his family destroyed, he believes the future can be changed so they can be together. He understands that she is the Saint of Time, and that she might have a hidden class like him. At this, he decides he needs to find her, leaving Griselda confused by his sudden haste. Kai announces they are leaving now, thinking that Colette just needs to wait for him. The scene changes, and Johan finds Colette, saying he finally managed to find her. With a sinister smile, he reveals his target, the Saint of Time named Colette. The scene shifts to a peaceful village, where a group of clerics arrives in the middle of the night. Johan interrogates a tied-up villager, demanding to know a girl's location with a menacing glare. After getting the information, he informs his knights that he now knows where the Saint, Colette, is. The cleric then declares he no longer needs to question the other hostages, as he has what he wanted. With a fake smile, he thanks everyone in the town for their cooperation, hiding his true intentions. Then, he orders them to use memory-wiping magic, but one of the hostages overhears and panics. The man shouts that the magic is dangerous, saying he's heard it can drive people mad. Johan gets annoyed by the man's stubbornness and says he'll do something special just for him. Without any mercy, the cleric simply gives the order to kill the man in front of everyone. He then sarcastically asks if anyone else dislikes the idea of having their memory erased. Seeing everyone's silence, he smiles, satisfied, and remarks that it seems only one person disagreed. Suddenly, a scream of terror echoes through the forest, cutting through the silence of the dark night. We see it's Colette, running desperately through the woods while being chased by the holy knights. The scene cuts to Johan, who gives a speech about welcoming the saint so that everyone can be saved. And with an evil smile, he reveals himself to the world as the new saint, Saint Johan. Johan reveals he doesn't care about the Demon King, as his only desire is the future of this second loop. Meanwhile, Colette runs desperately through the forest, looking at the strange mark on her hand. A knight asks why the saint is fleeing, and Johan suspects she's hiding something. She nears a tower, but realizes she has nowhere left to run. Soon, the holy knights surround her, making her small familiar angry. Despite her fear, she tries to calm down, thinking that if she just talks to them, everything will be okay. So she comes out of hiding, and Johan bows, saying it's an honor to meet her. Colette stares at him and the mark on her hand, confirming to herself that he is Saint Johan. A close-up on the mark shows its power has activated, confirming the cleric's identity. Johan smiles, now certain that she is the Saint of Time. He explains that a prophecy revealed the Demon King's birth, and they need her to protect the capital. The cleric presses further, saying this is her duty as a saint. But Colette interrupts him, stating that the Demon King's birth was already prevented by the hero Kai. This news catches Johan completely by surprise, leaving him speechless for a moment. She explains that if the prophecy didn't come true, it could only be because of Kai. Johan is shocked and asks how she knew about his secret prophecy. She then reveals she heard everything from Kai, who came from 5 years in the future to save lives. But Johan starts to laugh, realizing she's a living witness to the second loop. With an evil smirk, he asks if the Kai she's talking about is the son of the Austen family. He then tells a fabricated story, claiming Kai killed his brother and set fire to their mansion. Colette is outraged and yells that it's all a lie, as Kai would never do such a thing. Laughing, Johan shows a mark on his hand and claims his prophecy says Kai is the Demon King. He accuses her of siding with the Demon King and snaps his fingers with a wicked look. Without a second thought, Johan orders his knights to capture the saint immediately. He thinks that with Colette as a hostage, Kai will be powerless, and his plan will succeed. But out of nowhere, a giant demon smashes through the wall right behind her, surprising everyone. The creature lets out a terrifying roar, showing it wasn't there to play games. The knights stand frozen, unsure how to react to this sudden and menacing appearance. Everyone, including Johan, is utterly terrified by the monster's presence, and in the blink of an eye, the demon attacks, sending one of the knights flying with a single blow. Fallen on the ground, Johan is paralyzed with fear as one of his knights shouts his name. Colette faces the demon, realizing Kai was right and that talking wouldn't work. Completely terrified, Johan recognizes the creature and screams that it's an archdemon. She then turns to him, accuses him of being the source of corruption, and demands that he repent. Afraid, the cleric begins to beg for forgiveness, promising he'll do whatever she commands. But the demon growls, warning in a menacing tone that it won't let anyone escape. Suddenly, the creature stops and seems to recognize her, calling out Colette's name. She then walks calmly towards the monster and touches its cloak, showing no fear. Seeing his chance, Johan tries to explain himself, saying the Pope forced him and that he didn't want to do it. Colette looks at him suspiciously and asks if what he's saying is true, but he denies it on the spot. With a cynical look, he swears to God, trying to convince the girl of his false innocence. She seems to believe him and tells everyone to surrender, but Johan says he has one last request. He points to the knights who were injured by the demon's attack, asking for help for them. Colette offers to heal them, but the demon interrupts, saying there's no need since it was their fault. With a tense look, She just nods and says she understands the situation. Pretending to help, Johan grabs a potion and forces one of his injured knights to drink it. With a cruel smile, he pours the liquid into the man's eye and asks if it tastes sweet. Then he shatters the vial and starts laughing, calling Colette a fool for believing him. Colette is in shock, taking a step back in disbelief at the betrayal she's witnessing. The archdemon glares at Johan angrily, demanding to know what his plan was all along. Suddenly, the knight who drank the potion starts to writhe and scream in pain. The scene is so bizarre that Colette can only scream, terrified by the transformation. The man turns into a muscular monster, but the demon manages to stop his attack with one hand. Johan then reveals he gave him a booster to level up and fight the demon. The archdemon realizes the cleric was hiding this ace up his sleeve the whole time, but even with more power, the monster is no match, and the demon crushes its arm. Seeing all the chaos, Colette realizes this is her only chance to escape, but Johan sees her and says he'll hurt her so she can't run away anymore. He then concentrates his magic and fires an arrow of light in her direction. The attack hits Colette right in the chest, leaving the girl paralyzed in pain. But at the last second, the archdemon jumps in front of her and takes the hit. Colette panics, unable to believe he sacrificed himself to protect her from the arrow. With its chest pierced, the creature lets out a cry of pain, spitting blood from its mouth. Johan then mocks him, calling the demon pathetic for acting like a loyal puppy. He then orders the holy knights to attack, and they enchant their swords with light. One of the knights says this is the right thing to do, and shouts for his squad to advance. With their swords glowing, the three knights charge towards the wounded demon. The cleric smirks, explaining that the light element is super effective against darkness. The attacks hit the demon head on, who complains that the power is too strong for him. Enraged, Colette yells at Johan, calling him a coward and a disgrace to the saints, but he ignores her, declaring himself the very incarnation of justice and good. Fallen, the demon curses the humans, calling them filthy as he loses his strength. In his final moments, he looks at Colette and calls her name, his voice barely a whisper. As his body begins to burn, he uses what little strength he has left to tell her to run. And then, the demon's body shatters into countless red crystals before her eyes. Colette is frozen, completely shocked and unable to believe what she just saw. The transformed knight celebrates, saying he finally managed to finish off the archdemon. But suddenly, his body begins to explode from the inside out, spewing blood everywhere. He screams in desperation, feeling an unbearable pain as the potion destroys his flesh. In agony, the man begs Johan for help, asking to be cured of his suffering. But the cleric scoffs at him, telling that filthy thing to stay far away. The knight falls to the ground in disbelief, but at the last second, Colette grabs his hand. She looks at him with a compassionate gaze, showing she wouldn't abandon him. Then she promises to heal him, and begins to use her light magic on him. The man weeps as he feels the warmth of the magic, thanking the true saint for her kindness. But it's too late, and his body explodes as Colette apologizes for not being able to save him. Johan complains about the mess and says he'll have to get her new clothes. Covered in blood, she understands everything and accuses him of knowing this would happen. He coldly confirms it, saying the potion was improved but still had side effects. Realizing his cruelty, Colette breaks down in tears. Colette is frozen, completely shocked and unable to believe what she just saw. Johan then yells that he is justice itself, and that she is the one who should be judged. Trapped, Colette can only whisper Kai's name, apologizing for everything going wrong. The cleric smiles, saying that with the saint as a hostage, not even the demon king will be a problem. Far away, our hero Kai Austin wonders if Colette made it to the village safely. He walks back to his cabin, thinking of her and hoping everything is okay. When he arrives, he opens the door and announces he's finally home after a long day. A warm stew is already waiting for him by the fire, with an aroma that instantly whets his appetite. The two elves he saved, Sasha and Griselda, serve the food with a smile. He thanks them, saying he's starving after using his shadow ability so much. But suddenly, he feels a sharp pain in his hand and drops the firewood he was carrying. Griselda is startled by the noise and shouts his name. Not understanding what happened, he stares at his own hand, realizing the power he gave to the archdemon has returned to him. With a look of panic, he understands the message. His demon servant had been defeated. Using telepathy, he tries to make contact and desperately asks where Colette is, and the answer he receives fills him with fury. She has been kidnapped by Johan. A quick flashback shows Griselda thinking about what a skilled hunter Kai is. Back in the present, she and Sasha talk about him while cooking in the cabin. Griselda excitedly mentions that he even knows the habits of the forest rabbits. She then remembers when Kai taught her to hunt, showcasing all his wisdom. To her, the ease with which he hunts is proof that he's incredible. Sasha then teases her friend, saying she gets all giddy when she talks about him. Griselda gets embarrassed by the comment and asks what she means by that, but Sasha just giggles and changes the subject, leaving her friend even more curious. Suddenly, their conversation is cut short by Kai's arrival. He appears at the door with a serious expression. In a heavy voice, he informs them that Colette has been captured. The news catches them both by surprise, leaving the elves in complete shock. He explains that the archdemon protecting her was defeated, which leaves Griselda confused. Kai tenses up, realizing that only an army could defeat such a powerful demon. He looks at his hand and realizes that Colette is now completely alone and defenseless. In a vision, the archdemon apologizes to him, making Kai desperate to know what happened. Through the vision, the archdemon explains that Saint Johann and his knights were responsible. Kai gets pissed off because Johann knew about the second cycle, his time loop. He then realizes, remembering that the bastard cleric has a prophecy ability. With this, he understands that Johann's goal is to use Colette to create a barrier in the capital. The demon continues, warning that Johann called him the Demon King to manipulate Colette. And to make matters worse, the bastard even used enslavement magic to control the poor girl. After hearing the report, Kai tells his servant to rest and leaves the room in silence. Griselda notices the tension in the air and asks if he's okay, as his expression was terrifying. Filled with hatred, he swears he will never forgive Johann, and that he will pay with something worse than death. With a determined look, he vows to make sure he keeps that promise. Suddenly, his hand starts to catch fire, surprising Kai with his body's reaction. He looks back and sees Griselda, who slapped him on the back to get his attention. With a smile, she asks if it hurt and tells him she's strong enough to help in the fight too. Kai doesn't understand at all, completely confused by the elf's strange behavior. Then she reminds him that he can't carry everything alone, because now he has them as companions. Moved, Kai realizes he's going to rescue Colette with his new friends. He remembers that in his past life, everyone was an enemy, even his own family. With a sincere smile, he finally thanks them both for being on his side. He then wonders if now, in this new chance, he has finally found true allies. With a focused gaze, he begins to devise a strategy to invade the capital and save her. Kai explains that a magical barrier will soon cover the city, preventing entry. The problem is that trying to break this barrier with brute force is nearly impossible. He reveals that not even the future Griselda could get through, leaving the elf quite surprised. Worried, the two ask how they are going to get into the capital. He then reveals the plan, saying they will send an informant inside the walls. The idea of using a spy leaves the two girls dumbfounded, not understanding. The plan is to destroy the artifacts that maintain the barrier, weakening it from the inside. But Sasha questions this, asking who they know that would agree to help with such a mission. With a smirk, Kai makes it clear he has the perfect person in mind. Griselda gets it right away, and excitedly says that he's already thought of everything. Kai confirms the plan, but warns that even if they break the barrier, the three of them won't be enough. With a confident smile, he calls over Griselda and says he'll start with her. He then reveals the first part of the plan, which is to reclaim the territory that was stolen from her. The elf worries about Colette, but Kai assures her this will help save her in the end. With a serious look, he thinks that Johann has awakened a demon and that he needs to prepare. The scene then shifts to night, with Kai looking out the window, waiting for an enemy attack. Suddenly, a dagger flies in his direction, grazing him and catching him by surprise. Annoyed, he realizes that Johann wasted no time and has already sent assassins after him. A hooded man bursts into the cabin, immediately accusing Kai of being the Demon King. Right after, several other assassins with red eyes appear at the cabin door. Their leader then finishes the sentence, ordering Kai to die right there. The two elves are terrified by the invasion, not understanding who these people are. Kai shouts that they're the rotten side of the church, a squad that kills anyone who's inconvenient. At that moment, one of the assassins leaps and throws a shower of daggers toward our protagonist, but another attack distracts him, and he can't dodge in time, getting grazed. At the last second, Sasha jumps in front of him, using a plate to block the daggers. Right after, Griselda also takes a stand, showing she will fight against the Holy Church. With a swift attack, she takes down one of the assassins and runs out of the cabin. Outside, the elf tells him he's not alone, because they will fight by his side. Kai gets ready, as he recognizes the assassins as the purifiers he faced in his past life. He remembers they were an elite force, and that they were tough to beat before, but now he's much stronger, and he unleashes his dark power called Black Thunder. With a smile, he says that he has allies now, and he won't have to fight alone anymore. Sasha then jumps into the fray, throwing several plates as if they were ninja stars. She uses her special ability, Plate Storm, striking the enemies with her attacks. The assault is so powerful it shatters the plates and takes down the assassins at once. The squad leader is shocked, unable to believe the strength of a simple maid. Griselda then moves forward, using blood from a wound to create a weapon. With her power, she molds the blood into the shape of a whip, ready to attack. The elf strikes with the whip, sweeping away several enemies with a single powerful blow. She then taunts the survivors, saying this is just the beginning of the fight. One of the assassins falls wounded, unable to believe his men couldn't even fight back. But Kai shatters the illusion, telling Griselda they are actually forest rabbits. She's completely confused, not understanding how those assassins could be rabbits. In a flashback, Kai explains to Griselda that forest rabbits camouflage themselves in the shadows. He then points to the root of a tree, showing a rabbit hidden right there. Griselda gets super excited, confirming that what he said was true. Back in the fight, she gives a wicked smile and uses her blood to set a trap. Seeing the magic disappear, the assassins think she's tired and prepare an ambush, but she walks calmly, using the blood cross to spread her magic into the shadows. The squad doesn't notice the trap and rushes toward her to attack with everything they've got. Just then, blood roses sprout from the ground right under the enemy's feet. The roses explode into thorns, piercing the assassins from below and catching them all by surprise. In seconds, several bodies are impaled and lifted into the air by the elf's blood magic. She gives a victorious smile, as everything happened exactly as Kai had predicted. The two elves show that thanks to their pact with Kai, they have become much stronger. The scene shows the aftermath of the battle, with the bodies of the assassins scattered across the field. Kai admits with a smile that he had underestimated the potential of his new allies. Sasha then approaches with a prisoner and asks Kai what to do with him. Kai smiles, as this is the perfect opportunity he's been waiting for to make his move. He admits he was expecting the assassins, but he didn't think they'd arrive so quickly. Then, he proposes that the man make a contract with him and become his new servant. Griselda is shocked by the proposal, not expecting this from her master. She then asks why he wants to make a pact with a guy like that, failing to understand his plan, but with a gesture, Kai asks her to calm down, showing that he knows what he's doing. He warns the assassin that refusing the proposed deal is not an option. The only other choice would be for Griselda to use her powers to turn him into an undead. The man is terrified just imagining he would become an immortal, unholy monster. Kai already knew the answer, and with a serious look, he simply asks for the man's name. Terrified, the assassin finally replies that his name is Mateo. He warns that betrayal means death, and asks if Mateo accepts the contract. Seeing the man's decision, Kai finally allows the pact to be made. With that, he gives Mateo the class of Demon Commander using his magic. Instantly, the new servant feels immense power flowing through his entire body. Griselda is outraged, questioning why Kai made a pact with a human enemy, but Kai calmly explains that the man will now be their informant in the capital. He then reveals the plan to send Mateo back to infiltrate the church. Griselda understands everything and gets excited, asking Kai to tell her the rest of the strategy. With that, he turns to Mateo, already preparing to give his first orders. He tells the spy to inform Johann that the Demon King has a key item and has gone south. Mateo is a bit confused by the message, but agrees to deliver it exactly as told. Kai's plan is to use this bait to lure more enemies, so he can then defeat and convert them. He thinks it would be much easier if Johann himself came, but he doubts that will happen. With the informant inside, he'll finally be able to break the city's barrier at the right time. The two elves are left speechless, praising their master Kai's incredible strategy. He gets a little embarrassed by the praise and says they're exaggerating. Just then, a system screen pops up congratulating him, but it also notes that he gained no experience. He then wonders if what he's doing isn't also a kind of evil act, but he focuses on the plan, because if everything goes right, he'll gain much more than just an informant. With Colette's image in his mind, Kai reinforces his goal of rescuing her soon. But suddenly, Sasha shouts for Kai, as something strange appears in the forest. They approach and see a sheep demon lying on the ground, covered in wounds. Griselda rushes to the demon and shakes him, wanting to know what happened. Worried, she yells that they need to treat him immediately, but it seems to be too late. With difficulty, the demon warns that his territory has been lost, and that they need to run. With difficulty, the demon warns that his territory has been lost, and that they need to run. The group watches the scene, with Griselda begging him to hold on, not understanding the warning. Kai, however, seems to understand the situation, his expression turning tense. With his last breath, the demon only manages to say the name Elsa before he dies. The scene shifts to a quiet village, with a blue butterfly glowing in the grass at dusk. Kai suggests they rest there, but vows to himself that he will save Colette. Suddenly, the blue butterfly flies up and lands right in front of Griselda, catching her attention. She instantly understands the message and realizes it has something to do with Colette. Meanwhile, the demon sheep they saved gets up, and Kai decides to act quickly. The demon then thanks the group for saving its life when it needed it most. Griselda kneels near the butterfly, as if responding to the thanks. With a determined look, she declares that she won't let any more of her people die. The demon sheep is relieved by her promise, thinking how trustworthy Griselda is. She then warns it to hide, as their lands have been taken over by the dangerous Elsa. Elsewhere, a praying mantis carefully holds the butterfly, telling it to be cautious. Kai warns that Elsa is not an easy opponent, and they need to gather information first. Just then, a tavern door is kicked open, and inside, some men are laughing about demons. Griselda serves Kai, thinking she could take those guys out with one hand. The brutes keep drinking, talking loudly about how much fun it is to go on raids. One of the men mentions that this Elsa person is finally going to receive her noble title. Upon hearing the name Elsa, Kai tenses up. He knows this person well. His partner celebrates, shouting that this will make them servants of a noble. Griselda is furious at their conversation, but Kai tells her to hold back for now. The atmosphere in the tavern is pure chaos, with everyone drinking and yelling non-stop. He then tells Griselda not to worry, because Elsa's reign will soon be over. Kai thinks that he needs information about Elsa, and he can get it from her henchmen, but her anger vanishes the moment a rice omelet arrives at the table, making the elf overjoyed. Kai lets out a little laugh, finding it funny how easy Griselda is to please. Just then, Sasha approaches and offers to pour Kai some wine, but their conversation catches the attention of the brutes, who stare at the group with a strange look. The two men share a malicious grin, clearly planning to start trouble. Kai then says it might be a good idea for them to get new clothes, so as not to attract attention. Sasha says she doesn't know what to say, while Griselda immediately agrees with the idea. Sure enough, one of the men gets up and walks over to Sasha, ordering her to pour him some wine too. With a cold stare, Sasha looks the man in the eye and says she refuses to serve him. He boasts, saying he's from Elsa's vanguard and that no one dares to disrespect him. Kai smirks. His plan to get information was working. Meanwhile, Griselda is overjoyed, preparing to eat her rice omelet, but the man becomes furious at the refusal and slams the table, knocking her food to the floor. The elf is in shock at the scene, while the other henchmen laugh at the situation. With tears of rage, she glares at the man for ruining her long-awaited meal. Just then, the guy notices she's a vampire and asks if she's some kind of slave. He then shouts that he wants her for himself, making the two elves prepare for a fight. Kai's expression changes instantly, and he glares at the man with a serious, cold look. He then stands up and says, "That's enough," telling the brute to stop causing trouble. The man notices Kai's hand and immediately recognizes the mark of a dark mage. Laughing, he mocks Kai, saying he's just a C-class dark mage. With contempt, he comments that he hates that class and should just kill him right there. But Kai glares at him angrily and warns that first, he's going to pay for the omelet. The brute stares at Kai with a look of disdain, cracking his knuckles with a smile. He then shows off his dragon claws and scoffs at Kai for having the guts to face him, but Kai isn't fazed at all, simply snapping his fingers as his mage mark glows. Kai realizes the guy is a warrior, but says he has a few questions first. The man gets annoyed and tells him to keep his questions to himself, as he wasn't in the mood to talk. With that, he charges forward, yelling that he's going to kill Kai and then take the women for himself. The henchmen laugh at the scene, while the rest of the bar is terrified by the commotion. Without moving, Kai watches the attack, and the man ends up punching the table instead of him. The brute smirks, proud of the strength he just displayed. He then turns to Kai and warns him that he misjudged his opponent, but out of nowhere, the man takes a surprise blow to the stomach and spits up blood in pain. He staggers backward, completely shocked and confused about where the attack came from. Kai stands in front of him and even wonders if maybe he hit him a little too hard. While everyone in the bar is stunned, Sasha and Griselda laugh, finding the scene hilarious. The henchmen can't believe it, and Kai understands they are also servants of this Elsa. He then calmly reveals that he's level 999, leaving the henchmen shocked. They can't believe what they just heard, but Kai explains that he's much stronger than them. With a serious look, he warns that now they're going to have a talk and tell him everything. Terrified, the men stammeringly ask why he's so interested in their boss, Elsa. He warns them that dark mages have torture spells and invites them outside for a chat. Afraid of getting roasted, they immediately agree to tell Kai whatever he wants to know. After their conversation, he understands the situation and comments that the group's economy seems to be doing well. He then finds out they're making money by using demons as slave labor. The two henchmen look at each other, confirming the whole story with a nod, still afraid. Just then, Kai walks back into the bar with a bag of money and announces that the night is on him. The crowd cheers at his generosity, and the elves realize he's using the henchman's money. Sasha even questions if the money couldn't be used for something better, thinking it's a waste, but he explains that if the noise attracts attention, Elsa might get suspicious of the activity. Griselda recognizes the memory-wiping spell and gets worried, knowing it's dangerous. But he calms her down, explaining that the spell will only make everyone forget they were ever there. Griselda asks what they're going to do with the money, and Kai tells her they'll use it for travel. Meanwhile, the tied-up henchmen cry in a corner, lamenting that they've lost all their cash. With a smile, Griselda gets excited about the idea and immediately shouts that she wants to buy new clothes. Kai agrees with her. Since they're about to enter enemy territory, it's best not to arouse suspicion. The camera focuses on the bar, showing people drinking, and a hooded figure observing everything. A close-up reveals the mysterious person's face, who wears glasses and has strange red eyes. Down the road, a huge army of holy knights marches in perfect sync. Startled by the noise, the villagers wonder what the hell is going on outside. The village chief approaches them, wanting to know why so many soldiers are there. Commander Geese then uses magic to show Kai's face, asking if they've seen him. Upon seeing the image, the villager is shocked, as he recognizes the boy immediately, but he lies, saying he hasn't seen him, and even asks for some cash for the information. A soldier reports that Kai isn't there, and suggests they continue their journey south. With a sinister smile, Geese says this village is no longer of any use. The scene changes, showing Kai on a cliff, telling his companions they've arrived. Sasha looks down and confirms, commenting that the number of soldiers is huge. She notices their flag and warns that they are the church's elite Knight Templars. Kai isn't surprised, as his demon spy had already reported this exact information. It's revealed that Johann sent a warning, explaining about the 300 knights that were coming. Sasha is worried, as this scale means the entire Holy Church has been mobilized. But Griselda smiles confidently, telling Kai not to worry, as they will handle them. Kai smiles, finding the girl's confidence very reassuring at that moment. But his expression quickly turns serious, as he won't forgive the knights for touching Colette. He then turns to Griselda and Sasha, saying he has a request for them. With a serious look, Kai orders them both to kill absolutely every single enemy. The elves face the order with determination, ready to carry out his command. He continues, but asks them to do it without damaging any of the bodies. Griselda is confused by the order, wondering why he wants something so specific. Sasha, however, believes that if Sir Kai is asking, he must have a good reason. Noticing their hesitation, he tells them to relax, because they are both very strong. The sudden compliment leaves the two girls a bit flustered, but more confident. They then cheer up and guarantee they will fight using the best of their abilities. With everything settled, Kai announces that it's time to begin the attack plan. Suddenly, he notices some strange movement and realizes they are transporting supplies. In the distance, the troop of holy knights walks calmly with a large cart. Geese complains that the villagers had no money, but he's glad to be able to plunder the heretics. The scene cuts back to the village, showing the chief fallen and desperate amidst the destruction. Suddenly, Geese hears a noise and looks back, sensing a strange presence. High up on the field, he finally finds who he was looking for, the mage, Kai. The commander glares at him with hatred, shouting our protagonist's full name. He then asks if Kai is tired of running, finding the mage's attitude very arrogant. But Kai ignores the taunt and asks directly if Colette is safe. Furious, Geese yells that it's none of his business and that she will live for the church. With a look full of hatred, Kai says that's enough, calling the knights scum. At that moment, an explosion erupts in the middle of the troop, catching everyone by surprise. The commander is left confused, shocked by the attack that came out of nowhere. His soldiers begin to scream in pain as they are thrown in all directions. That's when Sasha appears in the air, spinning and attacking the enemies with agility. She throws daggers of dark energy, hitting several knights at once. Unable to get a clear look at the enemy, Geese shouts, wondering what the hell is happening. Amidst the chaos, the soldiers panic and yell to capture the enemy. One of the knights screams in pain, hit squarely by a dark magic attack. With fury in her eyes, Griselda also jumps into action, unleashing her full power. Geese can't believe his elite troop is falling, while Kai realizes he won't even need to fight. Taking advantage of the distraction, Sasha lands a devastating blow to a soldier's head. Griselda uses her blood magic to create an orb, easily finishing off another enemy. The dust settles, revealing the result of the massacre, with bodies scattered all over the field. Suddenly, Sasha appears behind Geese and asks what to do with the last survivor. Kai becomes thoughtful, considering it might be more useful to use the commander than to kill him. He then gets an idea, realizing this might be the best decision to make. The commander is terrified with a knife to his neck, unsure of what his fate will be. With a victorious smile, Griselda informs Sir Kai that she has gathered all the bodies. She explains that aside from being dead, the bodies are in perfect condition. Kai smiles and congratulates them both, saying they did an excellent job. The praise leaves the two girls flustered, but visibly happy for the recognition. But upon checking the items, Griselda gets annoyed seeing that it was all just plundered goods. Sasha comments that the Holy Church's corruption seems to be much worse than she imagined. Kai then turns around with a serious look, his next step already planned out. He realizes that with the bodies intact, he can finally test that forbidden spell. Griselda approaches and asks Sir Kai what he plans to do with all those men. He replies that he's going to turn them all into his new allies, leaving the girls in shock. It's explained that this is a dark spell, considered a rebellion against God. The protagonist then begins to concentrate, preparing to release his magic. The girls feel the pressure of the energy, and Kai remembers he never used this in his first cycle. Griselda is terrified by the power, commenting on what an enormous spell it is. From above, we see the gigantic magic circle Kai has created, but he knows it's necessary now. A dark energy begins to emanate from the pile of Holy Knights' bodies. They scream in pain as they are reanimated, their eyes glowing an intense red. In an instant, the entire army rises again, now under our hero's control. Griselda panics and shouts that this is high-level necromancy. Surrounded by the undead, she finally understands why he wanted the bodies intact. Geese falls to his knees, screaming in terror as he sees his own men surrounding him. The knights now possess synchronized commands and a courage that does not fear death. The commander is completely terrified, unable to believe what he's seeing in front of him. Because they are the bodies of elite knights, they form an incomparable fighting force. Kai then looks upon his new and powerful army of the undead with a satisfied gaze. In despair, Geese shouts that God will never forgive such an atrocity, but Kai simply ignores the plea, questioning the existence of this so-called God. He remembers that if God existed, there would have been salvation, and that's why he can't forgive him. Geese trembles in fear, as Kai reaffirms he will do whatever it takes to save Colette. He then turns to the commander and casually asks for his name. Kai lets him choose: become a subordinate of the Demon King, or become one of the undead. A system window appears, congratulating Kai on his victory and awarding him 1,200 points. Suddenly, a small demon appears, reporting that he took care of the enemy scouts, so Johan wouldn't find out. Griselda is confused by the creature, wondering what kind of being it is. Kai then reveals that it's an arcane demon, leaving the girls shocked by the information. The demon then reminds Sir Kai about another pending matter he had forgotten. Kai nods, saying they need to take care of that right now as well. Meanwhile, a hooded figure hides in the bushes, watching everything from a distance. Ares flees through the forest, all beaten up, wondering why this happened to him. Filled with rage, he blames his brother for everything that happened. With no strength left, he stumbles and falls to the ground, cursing Kai for his misfortune. Just then, a luxurious carriage passes by on the road, right next to where he collapsed. The hero remains on the grass, groaning in pain, unable to get up. From inside the vehicle, a noble couple spots him and hears his cries for help. The scene shifts to a luxurious mansion at night, showing that he has been rescued. Now in the dining room, Ares lets out a crazy laugh, happy to have escaped with his life. The noblewoman says she's happy to see him well, and that it's an honor to meet the great hero. But she feels awkward asking why he was in that place, and he stops eating. Ares clenches his jaw in anger, remembering the reason for his recent humiliation. The scene flashes back to 3 days earlier, with Ares trying to enter his family's estate. He shows the emblem on his hand and shouts that he is the hero, demanding they let him pass. But the guard says that proves nothing, and asks to see the holy sword as proof. Ares yells that the sword broke, but the guard replies that the holy sword cannot break. Tired of the mockery, Ares loses his patience and grabs the guard, shouting at him to stop. The soldier is momentarily shocked, surprised by the hero's aggressive reaction. He then accuses Ares of revealing his true self, a class with the dark attribute. Confused, Ares looks at his own hand and sees the mark of the Shadow Mage appearing. He panics and shouts that the emblem has changed, but no one believes his story. The captain accuses him of being an imposter and orders the others to teach him a lesson right now. At that, the soldiers prepare to attack, while Ares begs them to wait. With a malicious smile, the captain confesses that he has held a grudge against Lord Ares for a long time. The hero tries to explain, shouting that it's all a mistake and begging them to listen. But it was too late, and the guards start beating him without mercy. The attack is so powerful that Ares is thrown far, landing hard on the dirt ground. They then leave him there, warning him never to show his face in that place again. Back in the present, Ares swears to himself that one day he will have his revenge on everyone. The noble woman who rescued him looks thoughtful, questioning if he really is the hero, but he cuts her off abruptly, saying the matter is none of her business. The noblewoman apologizes for the question and asks Ares to rest well for the night. He stares back at her, and she thinks he is quite handsome with impressive assets. She then wonders just how far the privilege of a hero like him extends. At that, the young woman says she is tired from her journey and will be retiring to her chambers. Ares repeats the word relax, a malicious smile already on his face. With a sinister look, he agrees and says he will do exactly as she asked. The noblewoman then walks away with the butler, asking him to take good care of their special guest. The servant bids her farewell politely, wishing his mistress a good night. But as soon as she leaves, Ares lets out a maniacal scream and demands all the money in the mansion. The butler freezes, completely shocked by the order he just received. He asks what the hero is talking about, not understanding the sudden change in attitude. Ares shouts at him to stop stalling and threatens to kill anyone who doesn't cooperate with the hero. Desperate, the butler accuses him of madness, saying that this is a robbery, but the hero retorts, reminding him that his mistress authorized him to do whatever he wanted. He looks at his hand and sees the emblem is still glowing, thinking he can do anything with it. With a wicked smile, he says that now he finally feels like a real hero. Outraged, the butler accuses him of being an imposter and orders the guards to remove him. The captain of the guard confirms the order, shouting that he will carry it out, but Ares faces him with a smile, telling the guard to calm down and wait a moment. He then reminds everyone that defying the hero's authority is a very serious crime, and he threatens to execute the family of anyone who disobeys, leaving the guard utterly terrified. With a maniacal laugh, Ares orders them to drop the money and line up the women. With no other choice, they hand over bags of money, finding the situation unbelievable. Suddenly, the lady of the house appears at the door and asks what all the noise is about. She then comes upon the bizarre scene with the maids and money in the middle of the room. The noblewoman is completely shocked by the situation, unable to believe what she's seeing. Nearby, the maids stare at the floor, visibly frightened and deeply ashamed. The butler tries to protect her, desperately asking her to go back to her room, but Ares shoves him and yells at him to get out of the way, demanding to go to the noblewoman's room with her. Furious, the woman shouts, asking what he's saying, and lets out a terrified scream. Ares arrogantly asks if she too will have the courage to defy the great hero, but the noblewoman notices the emblem on his hand and questions if he is the real hero. He shows the mark to intimidate her, but is shocked to see it has changed again. Panicked, the hero can't believe the symbol of darkness has appeared once more. Everyone in the room becomes furious, wondering why his emblem has turned dark. Ares is terrified, realizing his deception has been completely exposed. The noblewoman then orders the guards to capture him, and he runs off to avoid being caught. As he flees, he shouts that he is the hero, not understanding what's happening to him. Much later, he walks down the road, badly injured, complaining that they tried to kill him. Ares doesn't understand why the emblem keeps changing, since the curse was supposed to be permanent. For now, he decides he needs to leave Austin territory and regroup elsewhere, but upon reaching a town, he sees a crowd looking at a wanted poster on the board. Someone in the crowd recognizes him, saying he's the second son of the Austin family. The poster reveals that Ares is now a criminal, wanted dead or alive for a reward. The scene cuts back to the present, with the mysterious figure watching Kai's group from a distance. She's impressed, thinking they are incredibly strong and out of the ordinary. Just then, she thinks maybe they can help, but a red energy surprises her from behind. Griselda captures her with her magic and bluntly asks what her purpose is there. The girl is terrified, with the elf's blood magic right at her neck. She then threatens her, demanding to know if the girl is an agent of the Holy Church. The spy stammers, trying to explain herself as Griselda's magic tightens even more, but then Kai tells her to stop, leaving Griselda confused by the order. He explains that he had been keeping an eye on her and didn't sense any malice from the girl. The young woman is shocked to learn she was noticed, unable to hide her surprise. Kai continues, saying he saw her at the tavern and also knows she's a demon. With no way out, she removes her hood and reveals her ears, confirming she's been discovered. The demon girl lowers her head, a little ashamed of being caught so easily. Sasha asks why she did it, and the girl apologizes for scaring them. She introduces herself as Mia and asks if, by any chance, they are also after Elsa. Mia turns to Kai and says she needs to ask him a very important favor. She explains that her sister was captured by Elsa and begs him to save her. Kai remains silent for a moment, carefully considering the girl's request. Griselda then approaches and asks her to share more details about this story. The scene shifts to the former Demon King's territory, in a dark mithril mine. Inside, several demons are forced to work as slaves without rest. Hidden, Griselda is horrified by the sight, finding it all unforgivable. Kai asks Mia if she was also a slave there, and she confirms it. She says the mine collapsed and many demons were buried alive in the accident. Mia recalls that she barely survived, and that's how she managed to escape from someone named Edgar. The name catches Kai's attention, who immediately asks who this man is. She explains that he's the supervisor, and Kai concludes he must be one of Elsa's subordinates. He then asks if she knows anything else, like his fighting style. She replies that his class, if she's not mistaken, is Grand Mage. The revelation shocks everyone, and Mia says this is a huge problem, as the class is powerful. Kai thinks Griselda is right, and that underestimating a Grand Mage would be very dangerous. Just then, Sasha returns from patrol, and Kai asks what's wrong, as she looks very pale. Desperate, she shouts that she was spotted by the enemy and used up all her magic in the fight. He's relieved she's okay, but worries about her energy expenditure on patrol. He then opens his skills screen, thinking of a way to help her recover. The MP Drain skill appears, which is used to steal magical energy from others. With a little smirk, Kai realizes this skill could work, and quickly comes up with a plan. The system screen announces that the skill has been acquired, and he uses his magic on Sasha. He explains that he shared one of his skills with her, leaving the elf very confused. Kai then reveals the skill is MP Drain, and that he's going to transfer energy to her. She panics at the idea, as she doesn't want to take her Sir Kai's magical energy. It's explained to us that the skill can be used carefully to donate energy to an ally. He asks her to understand, as it serves for both recovery and strategy. But the protagonist thinks to himself that there's actually another purpose for this. Sasha then sits down and is surprised to feel the magical energy begin to flow. Sasha uses MP Drain, pulling Kai's magical energy into a red aura. Impressed, she feels her energy surging and says she's fully recovered. Kai is happy she's okay, and thinks that at this level, the skill doesn't affect him at all. He then changes the subject and asks her how the patrol in the area went. She explains she saw a caravan near the mine, filled with caged demons. The scene shows demon children trapped, who would likely be sold as slaves. Furious, Griselda yells that they need to rescue those people immediately. But as she's about to act, Mia stops her, desperately asking her to wait. The girl warns that the caravan probably belongs to Edgar, and it would be dangerous to go without a plan. Griselda calms her down and promises that as the former lord, she will save her sister and everyone else. Mia is moved by the promise and asks hopefully if she's serious. At this, Griselda swells with pride, remembering her former title and her duty. Shocked, Mia realizes she is the famous Griselda and begs Sir Kai to go at once. With a confident smile, he agrees and says they will save all the prisoners. But before they leave, he suddenly grabs Griselda's neck, to everyone's surprise. Kai explains that he's going to share a skill with Griselda as well, using his magic on her. She understands its MP Drain and says the ability will be very useful. With the team prepared, Kai announces that they are now ready to face the Grand Mage. We are shown that to save Colette, they need allies, and this is the first step. The plan is to free the oppressed demons and make them their new battle companions. A cruel guard whips a cat girl, as she swears he will pay for this. The man lets out a horrible, sadistic laugh, enjoying the prisoner's suffering. A lone carriage crosses a desolate land, pulled by a young slave girl. Suddenly, the cat girl stumbles and falls to the ground, too weak to continue the journey. From the carriage, the great mage Edgar questions her, asking why she's stalling. With a face full of fear, the girl can only whisper an apology, but he doesn't accept it. And with a sadistic look, he asks if she wants more of that treatment. Then, the mage unleashes an electric shock on her, and she screams in pain from the jolt. The girl's body lies on the ground, smoking after the cruel punishment. He then yells that if they don't reach their destination, her younger sister will be sold. Desperate, she begs him to hurry, pleading for her sister to be left alone. With that, the girl gets up and starts running again, pulling the carriage with all her strength. The mage Edgar just watches the scene with a wicked, satisfied smile on his face. It's revealed that her sister is already dead, but he uses the lie to keep her in line. While he laughs at his plan, a guard inside the carriage warns him to be careful. Edgar turns around irritated, asking what the guard named Walter just said. Inside, we see Kai sitting, who asks if they really want to transport the demons safely. Kai explains that Elsa seems suspicious of the so-called Demon King, and they might end up running into him. But Edgar scoffs at the idea, saying no one would be foolish enough to fight Elsa's group. Meanwhile, inside the carriage, Kai and the other guards just wait in silence. Edgar then brags about his magic barrier, saying it's impenetrable and no one can get close. Kai just rolls his eyes, tired of the mage's arrogance. The journey continues with the carriage jolting along the deserted dirt road. The slave stops again, and Edgar immediately threatens her, asking if she wants another beating. But as he's about to use his magic, he realizes something is very wrong. The magical energy at his fingertip simply vanishes, leaving him confused. Desperate, he tries again, and realizes he can't use any of his spells. From inside the carriage, one of the guards shouts Edgar's name, sensing that something has gone wrong. The man then runs out, asking what happened to the protective barrier. Edgar panics when he realizes his powerful magic barrier has simply disappeared. He warns everyone to stay alert, as the situation has suddenly become very dangerous. At that moment, Kai leaps out of the carriage with a serious look, ready to face the threat. One of the guards yells Walter's name, and at the same instant, Edgar is thrown from the carriage. He hits the ground hard, screaming in pain and not understanding what caused the impact. With that, the cat girl finds herself free from the reins, staring in fear at the chaos. Edgar struggles to his feet, complaining about the pain and wondering what's happening. Just then, a blonde elf appears with a bow in her hand and asks if he's the Edgar she's heard about. He's startled by her strength and deduces that she was the one who attacked their carriage. The mage curses his bad luck, as they were attacked just when they couldn't use magic. One of the guards runs to him in a panic, warning that the situation is terrible for them. He explains that all their magic has been completely drained, leaving Edgar in shock. Edgar can't believe his mana is gone, until a red blur suddenly attacks him. He turns in fear toward the attack, unable to see who was responsible. Just then, the elf Griselda runs by and rescues the cat girl, hoisting her onto her shoulder. She looks back with a smile, saying that the plan seems to have worked perfectly. Edgar despairs when he sees they've taken the slave and wonders if there are more enemies. The scene shows Kai, who tells Griselda that the girl is safe, and now they just need to finish the job. Edgar becomes furious when he sees Kai, wondering where another human came from to mess things up. He then screams at his guards, ordering them to stop the invaders at once. But one of them replies in a panic, explaining that they can't use magic right now. At that, Edgar remembers that the only one there who can fight without magic is the swordsman, Walter. The man then approaches the blonde elf, carrying his giant sword on his shoulder. He turns to the women and apologizes, saying this is just his job. With that, Walter charges forward and attacks the elf with a swift and powerful strike. The girl is shocked by his speed, realizing the enemy is quite strong. He then taunts her, asking with a sadistic look if she can dodge the next one. Walter unleashes a precise horizontal slash, forcing the elf to dodge at the last second. Edgar celebrates, thinking she was hit, while the elf looks ahead with a frightened expression. But suddenly Kai appears in front of her, blocking the attack with his magic sword. The swordsman is in disbelief and asks how he managed to stop his blade and who they are. He recognizes the dark magic sword and wonders if Kai could be the real Demon King. Edgar yells for Walter to finish him off, but suddenly his throat is slit from behind. Griselda appears behind Edgar and chokes him, saying the fight is over for him. The mage gasps for air, only managing to whisper the swordsman's name, Walter. Seeing that he has lost, Walter throws his sword to the ground and surrenders, raising his hands. He is then tied up by the blonde elf, while Kai watches everything with a cold gaze. Edgar crawls on the ground and begs them to stop, asking what they want from him. Desperate, he offers them the slaves and says he'll do anything to spare his life. Kai then replies that it's fine, as he holds no grudge against the man. But he says he'll let the slave girls decide what to do, and asks if they agree. Edgar turns to the girls, saying he's sure they are very grateful to him. He even tries to manipulate them, reminding them how well he took care of them all. With a sick smile, he starts talking about what he did with them every night. The mage asks if it wasn't the best, but the girls just stare at him in disgust, with hatred in their eyes. All the slaves shout in unison that he must die. Some of them can't believe the man's audacity, finding it all unbelievable. Lying on the ground, Edgar repeats the word, shocked that his fate has been sealed by his victims. Hearing the girl's verdict, Kai simply says that it's all decided then. Edgar cries on the ground, lamenting that he still had so much he wanted to do with the cat girls. But suddenly, a skeletal red hand touches his shoulder, terrifying him. A dark creature emerges from the shadows, ready to claim the cruel man's soul. Edgar's soul leaves his body, which falls lifeless to the ground, ending his reign of terror. Kai claps his hands clean, remarking that seeing the man's cruelty disgusted him. Just then, the two elves approach him, overjoyed with the outcome of the rescue mission. Griselda celebrates excitedly, saying their plan was a huge success in the end. But Kai gives them the credit, saying everything worked out thanks to the two of them. The scene shifts, showing Kai's hand glowing with the ability he shared. In a flashback, it's revealed that the sharing was completed, and Griselda confirms she can now use Mana Drain. Kai then explains they need to proceed with the plan, considering the enemy's class. The target was Edgar, a grand mage, which made the mission much more dangerous. Kai says fighting head-on would be risky, and that's where the Mana Drain ability comes in. Griselda explains the idea is to steal his magical power, because without it, a mage is just an ordinary human. Kai agrees with the other elf's concern, but says he has a way to handle it. The solution was to watch the wagon from a distance, waiting for the right moment to strike. He then gives the signal, telling the two of them to get ready to use the ability. The plan was simple. The three of them would use Mana Drain at the same time to completely deplete the mage's magic. The scene returns to the moment Edgar's magic vanishes, leaving him completely confused by the situation. Griselda laughs uncontrollably, saying the desperate look on his face was hilarious when they drained his mana. It's explained that without magical power, the first thing Edgar noticed was his barrier disappearing. The blonde elf comments that without magic, the other guards couldn't really fight. Griselda then tells Kai that with her and Sasha together, she feels like they can't lose to anyone. But Kai thinks to himself that they are strong, but to defeat Johan, he'll need even more power. With his goal in mind, He says it's all right, and that now they will free the demons. The group then takes the carriage to a more secluded location to free the prisoners. They open the cage, finally granting freedom to all the demons who were enslaved there. Griselda asks if everyone has been found, and the other elf believes so, that no one is missing. But she comments that they all seem very exhausted, and wonders what they should do now. Far away, the captured guards realize all their weapons and equipment have been stolen. One of them says that even if they got loose, he doesn't think they could escape from that group. Walter silently concludes that staying put means they'll eventually be killed. Hiding nearby, young Mia wonders if it's safe for her to come out now. One of the guards smiles wickedly, already planning a way to escape the situation. Noticing their exhaustion, Kai says everyone there needs some good healing. A purple aura then envelops the girls, restoring the energy of all who were mistreated. He thinks that he needs to find strong demons to be his allies in rescuing Colette. Suddenly, young Merle appears, shouting that Kai and Griselda are finally safe. The cat girl who was pulling the carriage shouts her name, overjoyed to see her sister again. But taking advantage of the distraction, the guards use an ability to escape their ropes. One of them then runs and grabs Merle, taking her hostage right in front of everyone. The girl freezes, completely panicked by the enemy's surprise attack. Her older sister watches the scene in terror, not knowing what to do to help. Griselda and the other elf are furious, yelling at the guard for his cowardly act. He laughs, saying that with a hostage, the advantage is now all his. But Kai calmly asks if he's really sure, as a familiar appears behind him. The guard ignores him and makes a threat, telling them to let him escape if her life matters. Merle's expression changes completely, showing a wild and unexpected fury. In the blink of an eye, the older sister strikes the guard, who doesn't even understand what happened. The other soldier is shocked by the scene, unable to believe the cat girl's speed. Even Kai is surprised, wondering how she managed to be so fast. The remaining guard then uses a skill, launching magic stones towards the girl. Seeing the danger, Merle screams desperately, warning her sister to be careful of the attack. But the girl dodges all the projectiles with unnatural agility. Without being hit, the guard is furious, wondering how she managed to escape all the stones. Suddenly, a beam of light hits him head-on, defeating him before he could react. Griselda celebrates excitedly, praising the girl for finishing them off without a scratch. Kai is impressed by her movements, thinking that with this, his plans can move forward. At this, Walter grumbles that one should never underestimate the dormant power of the cat tribe. The scene focuses on Merle, who looks at her older sister with eyes full of tears. She runs and hugs her sister, apologizing for coming to rescue her only to get caught. But the older one comforts her, saying it's okay, as long as she's safe now. Kai watches the reunion with a smile, happy that the two sisters could be together. The two sisters approach, and the older one thanks Kai from the bottom of her heart for everything he's done. He smiles and tells her to thank Griselda, who gets flustered by his praise. But she quickly gets excited, saying it's time to show everyone the new Demon King. Kai looks at her with a serious, focused gaze and simply agrees that she's right. He then turns to the demons, saying the church treats them like loveless monsters. Everyone is confused by the statement, and one of the girls questions the loveless part. The sisters also wonder if what the church says about them is really true. Kai opens his arms and begins his speech, saying that those who have hearts and love. He turns back to the group of demons and completes his sentence, saying that in reality, they are the ones. With that, Kai reveals his grand plan to create an ideal nation in the demon realm. The revelation leaves everyone speechless, and a tied-up Walter repeats the word nation in shock. Kai then says that their demons will live without prejudice, and that he will be the new Demon King. Walter is stunned by the young man's ambition and asks what he just said. Griselda looks at him full of admiration, shouting her new master's name with pride. With a smile, Kai announces their next step is to reclaim the mithril mine. The freed demons stare at Kai, still half disbelieving what they've just heard. He then asks all who can fight to prepare themselves, because they are going to reclaim their nation. Walter lies there tied to the ground, completely shocked by the young man's ambition. Meanwhile, the elf Sasha looks at him with admiration, finding it a wonderful sight. Griselda turns her face away, flustered, with a mix of embarrassment and pride for her master. Sasha tells her not to mind it, as she was just very happy about the speech. With the speech finished, Kai turns to decide what to do with the prisoner. He then approaches Walter and says he needs to decide his punishment. The swordsman just closes his eyes in silence, accepting his fate without complaint. Then, he opens his eyes and says he has no attachment to life, telling Kai to just get it over with. Kai is surprised by his attitude and says that in that case, he has already made a decision. But suddenly the older sister runs up to him, asking him to wait a moment. With a serious look, she begs him to please spare the man's life. Kai is confused and asks Melty why she's defending the swordsman Walter. She explains that the man actually ended up helping all the prisoners, We're shown that he gave them food and even treated the girls' wounds. Melty says he protected them from Edgar's cruelty, and that's why he's not a bad person. Intrigued, Kai asks Walter why a human like him would help demons. The man replies it was just out of pity, making Kai even more curious about his answer. He questions if they deserve to be oppressed just because they were born as demons. Walter then says that's ridiculous, since no one chooses how they're born. With disgust, he finishes by saying, "This whole prejudice situation is simply sickening." At that, Kai asks what his class is, and Walter reveals he's a dark knight. He explains that because he has a dark attribute, his class was the worst for a holy knight. It was all the fault of the god-chosen class, which dominated the knightly order. Filled with hatred, Walter recalls that because of this, he lost someone precious to him. Kai seems to understand the man's pain, listening silently with an empathetic look. In a flashback, a superior humiliates him, saying he'd never be promoted with that kind of power. The superior laughs maliciously, saying that if he had just stayed quiet, the woman wouldn't have died. Walter is shocked and utterly furious as he remembers that tragic moment. With rage, he grinds his teeth and screams, as all the blame fell on him. Kai then asks who this precious person was that the knight had mentioned earlier. With a sad look, Walter reveals that the woman was his fiancée, who was killed. Hearing this, Kai remembers Colette, and finally understands the man's pain. He realizes they are the same, and so he asks if Walter would agree to serve him. Walter is surprised, and asks if he's being asked to betray Elsa, but Kai denies it. The young man then explains that the invitation is to betray the Holy Kingdom alongside him. Kai repeats his dream of creating a free nation where everyone could live without prejudice. After listening, Walter gives a slight smile, finding the whole idea quite interesting. Just then, a knife cuts the ropes binding him, finally freeing him to fight. The Dark Knight then stands up and swears total loyalty to the new Demon King. The scene shows Walter now as a new and powerful ally for Kai's group. Melty smiles, knowing he will be a very strong asset for Lord Kai. Kai announces he will also give Melty the Demon General class, leaving her in shock. He explains that she is strong, and to retake the mine, they'll need a lot of firepower. Sasha then gets excited, already imagining her new master's next move. At that, Kai says he will use the subordinate demon contract to increase their strength. With the preparations complete, the battle at the mine would be much more favorable for his group. The scene then shows us the Dark Knights guarding the location, ready to fight. Melty declares with conviction that she will prove her worth to repay Kai's kindness. He's a little surprised by her attitude, but he understands her strong determination. Thus, Walter receives the Demon General class and Melty the Demon Captain class. Kai then turns and asks with a serious look if they are both ready for the plan. She replies yes, and that the lives he saved are prepared to fight by his side. Walter adds that his sword now belongs solely to the new Demon King. With a glow in his hand, Kai finally consents and seals the contract with his new generals. The scene shifts to the Mithril Mine Fortress, heavily guarded by enemy knights. Walter arrives in the cart, shouting for them to open the gate, claiming something terrible has happened. One of the guards asks what happened, while Walter yells for them to hurry up and open it. Up above, the fortress guards just watch the scene, not understanding the urgency, but their leader gets irritated with the delay and shouts for them to open the gates now. At that, the huge wooden gates of the mine finally begin to open. Walter and Melty exchange a look, maintaining the tension to make their disguise work. The cart then enters the fortress, passing through the main entrance without any issues. The guard leader continues to watch everything from above with a very suspicious look. They take the cart inside a shed, as if they were bringing in new prisoners, but the leader comes down and stops Walter, ordering him to stop right where he is. Hidden in the cart, Kai and Griselda prepare themselves, sensing the fight is about to begin. The man then asks with a serious look, wanting to know where the mage Edgar is. Walter just looks away in silence, letting the suspicion in the air grow. The guard finds it all very strange and orders his men to search the inside of the cart. Walter says he understands, and with a gesture tells one of the guards to go check the cargo. The soldier then approaches the cart's door with no idea what awaits him. The guard opens the door, boasting that no one dares to challenge Elsa's faction. But as he looks inside, he sees Kai and the elves sitting on the body of an unconscious guard. With a cold and determined look, Kai simply announces that the operation is finally beginning. Just then, the cart door flies off, hitting the guard in front of it head-on. The captain doesn't even have time to react and is hit by an attack that sends him flying. Furious, he realizes the betrayal and orders the troops to assemble and set up barriers. The soldiers then prepare for battle, with archers already positioned on the walls. The captain screams with hatred, ordering his men to kill all the invaders now. Walter then charges forward without fear, rushing his former captain with his axe, and with a single, precise strike, he finishes off the guard leader, who falls dead to the ground. The soldiers panic upon seeing their captain defeated instantly. Walter tells the Demon King that they'll handle everything, and that he can move on. With a smile, Kai thanks him and says he'll leave the rest of the fight in their hands. The group then advances through the fortress as the guards try to stop them from reaching the prison. But Walter and Sasha stay behind, ready to hold off any enemies that appear. With a confident smile, Walter declares that no enemy will be left to tell the tale. Meanwhile, Kai's group runs through the fortress towards a building with an intense glow. They finally reach their destination, the dreaded prison where all the demon slaves were kept. Melty gets closer and realizes it's a magical barrier, and that brute force won't work. But Kai isn't fazed. He just draws his sword and attacks the barrier with all his might. The energy shield shatters into 1,000 pieces, and the group invades the area without any trouble. The two girls are in shock, as the barrier vanished in an instant due to Kai's power. He then announces that he and Melty will take care of the area and tells Griselda to move forward. The elf runs ahead while Kai faces the guards who were trying to protect the prison entrance. One of the captains gets up and yells at the boy not to get cocky just because of that. With a malicious smile, he warns that even if they free the slaves, it won't do any good. It's revealed that the mine's main forces will soon return from their hunting expedition. And leading the army, we see a man with the rare Dragon Knight class. The scene focuses on the knight's hand, which is shown to have the same dark mark as Kai and Walter. In front of the guild, the knight in golden armor starts laughing, underestimating Kai's power. He then shouts that the Dragon Knights are on their way, warning that Kai is finished, but Kai calmly replies that they should be engaging in combat right now. The scene shifts to a marching army that spots a signal to pick up the pace. One of the soldiers reports that the Dragon Knights went ahead, and they're right behind them. Back in the city, Kai gives a sinister smile, as the main force has already been dealt with. Just then, in the forest, a group of knights with red eyes appears, surprising the soldiers. The men panic as they realize it's an ambush, wondering where they came from. It's then explained that these were elite soldiers from the Holy Church itself. One of the knights is startled upon recognizing the armor, questioning if they were holy knights. But before he could get an answer, he is brutally attacked by one of the undead. The battle begins, and the soldiers realize the danger, shouting that those things aren't human. Desperate, one of them warns not to fight them directly, as each one is incredibly strong. Another soldier tries to be optimistic, saying they have the advantage, but is cut down immediately after. The commander is in shock, as his soldier died from just a superficial scratch. It's then we discover that Kai gave the undead the Reaper's Touch skill. In a panic, the soldiers start screaming and retreat, unable to fight back. Back in the city, Kai realizes the enemy's main force is done for, and now all that's left is... He then turns with a serious look, ready to handle the rest of the problem. The scene shifts, and we see the enemies moving towards the demon prison. With just one blow, the Golden Knight finally falls to the ground, completely defeated. Inside, little Melty says she won't let them pass, showing the mark on her hand. She then feels a different energy, realizing she's grown stronger because of the contract. But suddenly, the girl is startled by an overwhelming presence that appeared out of nowhere. From the rooftop, a knight mounted on a giant red dragon appears by surprise. It's revealed that he is a dragon knight, an extremely rare and powerful class. The knight then orders his dragon to turn that demon into a pile of ashes. To escape the attack, the girl leaps high, narrowly dodging the fire. The power of the breath attack destroys everything, leaving Melty shocked by such raw force. With a malicious smile, the knight shouts that slaves should stay quiet in their place. Without hesitation, the dragon shoots several fireballs, destroying everything in its path. Melty runs desperately to save herself, trying to escape the explosions surrounding her. She screams that it's impossible to fight them, as dragon knights can fly and breathe fire. But from a distance, Kai begins to cast a spell, asking the abyss to swallow his enemies. Just then, two black holes appear in the sky and absorb the flames, leaving Melty in shock. The cat girl looks back, completely confused, wondering what was happening. The black hole then sucks in all the fire, completely nullifying the dragon's attack. From above, the knight is outraged, shouting that the fireball was sucked into a hole. He looks down and recognizes Kai, pointing angrily in our hero's direction. Furious, the knight dives with his dragon, screaming that he'll wipe him out. Melty then runs to Kai and warns him that the enemy is dangerous, suggesting they should retreat. But Kai questions her, reminding her, "Didn't we come here to free the demons?" The girl is left speechless by his response, staring with a surprised expression. Annoyed, the knight decides he's had enough of long-range attacks and prepares for a direct assault. He then charges straight at Kai, ready to end the fight once and for all. Meanwhile, in the prison, Griselda breaks her chains, preparing to free everyone. The Beastman is impressed, as she broke the shackles with just her bare hands. Then, Griselda shouts for everyone to run, taking the chance they had to escape. But suddenly, a dragon's shadow in the window frightens the prisoners, sending them into a panic. The elf realizes the dragon knight has returned, and the others lose all hope of escaping. Outraged, Griselda shouts for everyone to be silent, as they came to reclaim their nation. She then says that their time of submission is over, and the time has come to win back their freedom. Outside, the knight gets angry, and warns that Kai will deeply regret challenging him. But before he could attack, a giant fireball appears, heading straight for him. Kai then returns the attack, launching a powerful blast of hellfire at the dragon. The hit is a direct one, causing a massive explosion that lights up the entire night sky. From the impact, the dragon is severely wounded, its mouth completely mangled and smoking. With no choice, the knight curses in anger and retreats, fleeing the battle. He tries to fly away, but the injured dragon can't take it and starts falling toward the ground. The creature then crashes down hard, landing right in front of Melty, who is paralyzed with fear. Melty stares in shock at the knight on the ground, who was brutally defeated. With a trembling hand, she whispers to herself that they finally managed to win the fight. At that moment, Griselda and the other demons appear, shouting Melty's name in celebration. Kai then approaches the girl, who is still on the ground, processing the victory. He then tells her with a smile that all her friends are free now. At this, Griselda raises her fist and shouts that they did an amazing job in the battle. Melty is overjoyed to see Griselda and the others, relieved that everyone is safe. The group of demons finally gathers in the courtyard, meeting up with Kai and Melty. Suddenly, Kai receives a notification congratulating him for freeing the demons from Elsa's faction, and as a reward, he gains 2,000 experience points, while everyone celebrates together. Nearby, the enormous red dragon remains fallen and unconscious amidst the wreckage. With a smile on her face, Melty closes her eyes, thankful that everything turned out well. But from a distance, Walter observes everything with a smile, wondering what Elsa would do. Kai agrees with him, saying that knowing Elsa, she would definitely flip out. The two exchange a knowing look, as Kai seems to have a very risky idea. He then tells Walter that his suggestion is actually a great idea. Then, Kai looks at the dragon and asks if they shouldn't provoke Elsa just a little bit. The scene changes, and we see a knight reporting to Elsa, who is relaxing in a golden bathtub. He informs her that the Holy Knights will grant her a noble title and a spot in the hero's party. Upon hearing the news, Elsa breaks into a smile of pure satisfaction, clearly pleased. She then celebrates, shouting that everything is going exactly according to her plan. It's then revealed that Elsa is an ultra-rare class magic swordswoman, and she can't stop smiling. She thinks about how attached she's become to the castle, feeling it's too good for Griselda. With that, Elsa stands up and gets out of the tub, walking through the luxurious room. She then turns to a servant and asks if even a useless demon can understand value. With a sadistic look, Elsa grabs the rabbit girl, demanding she say something. Terrified, the servant replies that the castle is a perfect match for Lady Elsa. The redhead gives a chilling smile, asking if it's obvious that she's right, isn't it? Suddenly, the mark on her hand glows, and she burns the servant's arm, who screams in pain. The girl begs for her to stop, but Elsa screams at her to be quiet. With a completely insane look, the villainess begins to let out a loud, evil laugh. We then discover that she takes great pleasure in tormenting girls she finds cute. Elsa boasts about her power, saying everything has gone her way since she got her rare class. She then pictures herself with the nobles, thinking she'll have all the money and power in the world. Her soldiers celebrate with her, all very excited about their future conquests. To celebrate, Elsa orders the best wine from the cellar, as it's going to be a long night. She then raises a bottle, laughing and saying that one sip is worth their entire salary. But suddenly, a loud noise from the ceiling interrupts the party, startling everyone. Elsa looks up, trying to figure out what that strange sound was that came out of nowhere. Just then, a soldier runs into the room, shouting that Lady Elsa needs help urgently. Desperately, he warns that the castle is being invaded by several terrible monsters. Before they can react, a huge explosion shatters the wall, sending debris flying everywhere. Elsa stands amidst the smoke and rubble, wondering what kind of monster it was. Through the hole in the wall, the head of a massive zombie dragon appears, staring everyone down. She is completely terrified, as she had no idea such a monster existed in the region. It is then that the dragon reveals he is the demon king Kai, and that the mithril mine is now his. Hearing Kai's name, Elsa freezes in shock, completely paralyzed by fear. The dragon then explains that he now serves a new master, leaving everyone in shock. One of the soldiers recognizes the dragon, wondering if their knight has been defeated. Kai then reveals that since she took his life and his beloved Colette, he will take everything from her. Angrily, Elsa yells that she has no idea what he's talking about, refusing to believe it. She then says she hates it when people take her things, and she can't wait to show them what happens. The dragon prepares to attack, warning that he has a special little gift for her. He then fires a blast of dark energy so that she may suffer an infinite pain. The technique's name is revealed as Cursed Breath, a deadly magical attack. Elsa panics, knowing she can neither dodge nor touch that curse. Without a second thought, she shoves one of her soldiers in front of her to act as a shield. The man screams in despair as he realizes Lady Elsa has betrayed him just before being engulfed by the magic. Elsa screams from a distance as the dragon continues its attack without mercy, but filled with rage, Elsa grabs her sword and engulfs it in powerful flames. She then unleashes her special technique, the powerful Crimson Flame Slash. The blow cuts through the floor with a wave of fire, showcasing the swordswoman's incredible strength. Even after the attack, Elsa can't believe the mithril mine has truly been taken. Filled with hatred, she decides she will finish the Demon King, and that she will kill him very slowly. Lying on the ground, the soldier asks why she used him as a shield to defend herself, but Elsa yells at him to shut up, saying he's still alive and shouldn't be complaining. She then turns and orders all her soldiers to gather for a counterattack. With that, she announces they're heading to the mine now, as Kai must be unprepared. The cursed soldier continues to suffer, while she assumes Kai thinks the curse worked. But as she was leaving, a guard comes running, saying that the rare wine cellar, the cellar was completely empty, and Elsa is left speechless at the sight. Shaking with rage, she realizes the Demon King is taking everything from her, piece by piece. With a furious glare, Elsa swears that she will never, ever forgive him for what he's done. Swearing vengeance, Elsa gallops with her troops, determined to make them pay. Along the way, she sees her defeated soldiers and swears she won't forgive this. They finally reach the mine's entrance, ready to launch their surprise attack. With a furious look, she screams that he dared to take her mine. She then grinds her teeth, whispering the Demon King Kai Austin's name with hatred. But as they approach the gate, they hear the sound of a party coming from inside. One of the soldiers is confused, wondering what that noise is in the mine. Another asks if they're actually daring to throw a party in there. Elsa goes ballistic, wondering how far they'll go to mock her. She then raises her flaming sword and orders her men to finish them all. With a single strike, the redhead blows the gate open, clearing the path for her revenge. She then shouts for them to pay with their blood, leaving no woman or child alive. But upon entering, she finds only two demons, who seem surprised by her presence. The two then run off desperately, leaving Elsa confused by the whole situation. Suddenly, Walter appears in the air, saying she had finally arrived. Without warning, Walter attacks Elsa with a powerful strike from above the gate. She then realizes it was all a well-planned trap, but the swordswoman manages to defend herself at the last second, showcasing her great skill. Just then, she remembers him, recognizing the face of her former guildmate. Walter then smiles and asks if she can stop his next attack. The two trade blows, and the force of the impact creates a small shockwave. He gets annoyed seeing she defended herself again, showing his frustration. Elsa gets angry and asks how much the Demon King paid him to betray her like that, but Walter ignores the question, pulling a mysterious syringe from his pocket. With her power increased, she charges at him, ready to end the fight. At high speed, she gets very close, preparing to land the final blow on the traitor. Suddenly, she appears behind him and asks what happens to traitors. Her sword then ignites, preparing to use the Crimson Flame technique. But as she turns, she sees the fortress guards, now with red, grim eyes. Elsa can't believe it, wondering if even the fortress guards have betrayed her. One of her loyal soldiers screams in terror, falling to the ground, completely terrified. Elsa then realizes they're dead, wondering if they've turned into undead. Even surrounded, the swordswoman is not intimidated and faces the group of enemies alone. Just then, one of her men warns that a huge army has prepared an ambush for them. The soldiers become desperate as they recognize their former comrades among the undead. From a distance, Walter kneels, looking very tired after the first clash. Angrily, Elsa accuses him, saying he finished off all her subordinates, but she gives a confident smile, warning that mere undead can't stop her. That's when Kai appears and disagrees, activating a magic circle with his mark. He uses the Poison Swamp spell, and the ground beneath Elsa turns into a purple liquid. The redhead looks down, surprised and not understanding what was happening. Her soldiers shout for her to be careful, as the ground has turned into a sinking swamp. The undead don't care and charge at the trapped soldiers. Suddenly, one of the men feels his body grow weak, not knowing why. Elsa then understands everything, screaming in terror that it was a deadly poison. From atop the gate, Kai confirms she figured it out quickly and that it's a paralysis poison. With hatred in her eyes, Elsa screams, asking if he is really the feared Demon King. She's confused, questioning how this is possible since he looks like a human. Elsa then realizes he has the power of a grand mage, becoming even more shocked. One of her men yells that it's hopeless and they need to retreat right now, but Elsa tells him to shut up and orders everyone to drive the undead away. Frustrated, she decides she'll turn everything into a sea of fire, even her allies. She then tries to activate her fire magic, but realizes something isn't right. Desperate, she wonders why she can't use her magic at all. She then wonders if it's because of the swamp, but feels the sensation is different. It's revealed that Sasha is draining her mana, using a long-range spell. Annoyed, Elsa decides she'll cut them all down, since the problems never end. Her soldiers scream her name, being mercilessly attacked by the undead. One by one, they are pulled into the swamp, with no chance of escape. Elsa watches with hatred as her elite soldiers are all defeated. Surrounded, Elsa watches the undead and her own men trapped in the poison swamp. Seeing there's no way out, she decides it's time to use her trump card, but Kai already knew, saying that Elsa always uses limit break when she's cornered. She's shocked, wondering how he knows her secret, and he taunts her to use it already. With a look of pure hatred, the swordswoman prepares to show her true power. She then gives a sinister smile and agrees, accepting the Demon King's challenge. One of her soldiers tries to stop her, but she screams that she doesn't care and tells him to shut up. Her hand begins to glow with red energy, warning that he will regret it. The soldiers beg her to stop, knowing that power will kill them all along with her enemies. Ignoring everyone, she raises her hand and finally activates Limit Break. Elsa's mana begins to flow, concentrating in her hand for an attack. Then, she unleashes a blast of energy, throwing all the soldiers away. One of the warriors is shocked, not understanding what just happened. She faces her enemies with a furious gaze, ready for whatever comes next. From above, Kai just watches the redhead unleash all of her absurd power. He maintains a calm expression, analyzing his opponent's strength. This skill triples all her stats for 5 minutes. The soldiers get scared, warning that Kai could also be caught in the crossfire, but she ignores the warning, yelling that she doesn't care about that right now. Then her sword is enveloped in flames, preparing for a devastating slash. The guard panics as he's hit head-on by the warrior's flaming strike. Her attack is so powerful, it creates a trail of fire, sweeping across the field. Kai realizes that her new magic attack was completely absorbed by him. Suddenly, his eyes begin to glow with the same fiery energy, and with that, he returns the power, causing a gigantic explosion on the wall. The warrior despairs, screaming that Kai is actually the Demon King. On the other side, Sasha is shocked and calls out her master's name. The smoke from the explosion begins to clear, revealing the damage that was done. But in the middle of it all, Kai lands on the ground without a single scratch, completely unharmed. Elsa is in disbelief, wondering how he withstood the attack and that it's impossible. He stares back at her with a look of superiority, showing he felt nothing. The man then yells at the elf, asking if she's sure she even hit him. Kai signals for her to stop, saying she's still in her growth phase. The soldier watches them from a distance, saying fearfully that they are both monsters. He then reflects on the situation, analyzing his adversary's strength. We're told that in 5 years he wouldn't be able to stop her, but now he knows her weakness. Kai asks if she's okay, revealing the weak point of her ability. Outraged, she yells for him to shut up and stay away, calling him trash. He crouches down and warns her that she should hurry, as 1 minute has already passed. At that, she runs to escape, wondering how far ahead he had planned everything. The soldier screams in terror, calling Kai the Demon King loud and clear. With that, the warriors surrender and ask to switch sides, as they can't take it anymore. Elsa is furious at the betrayal, cursing them all as bastards. Kai then agrees to the deal, but warns that they will have to prove their loyalty. The soldier accepts the order immediately, even if it means attacking his own comrade. She is shocked by the scene, trying to make them stop this madness. But ignoring her, the warriors advance on Elsa, who now has to defend herself. She manages to block the blow, asking if they thought they would get away with this unscathed. Suddenly, her body weakens, and she realizes the poison has finally taken effect. Kai reveals that her skill resisted it, but the poison swamp is finally working. The soldier grabs her by the neck, saying she's no longer a threat, but Kai orders him to get away from her, and the man obeys the command instantly. The redhead's hair begins to sink into the poison swamp on the ground. He thinks the poison could be useful, and that he didn't expect to see her crawling so pathetically. And with her body paralyzed, Elsa finally faints, collapsing to the ground. Even on the ground, Elsa continues to glare at him with hatred, refusing to give up. She manages to move, saying she still has one last trick up her sleeve. With her last bit of mana, she yells that she still has magic and gets rid of the poison. Kai is surprised by the scene, admitting she is truly very resilient. At that, her sword bursts into flames again, preparing for another attack. She charges with everything she has, delivering a series of flaming slashes at him. With a furious cry, she declares that she is the strongest one there. She goes on to say she has a super rare class, chosen by the gods themselves, and because of that, she shouts with conviction that she is an elite magic swordswoman. But her attack is stopped by Kai, who places a single hand on her chest. He says that even so, a dark mage will defeat her right now. The warrior is in shock, unable to believe what was happening. Then, Kai activates his magic, launching an attack called Hellfire. The ability pierces through Elsa's body from every direction. With that, she screams in pain and spits blood, finally defeated. Completely finished, Elsa falls to her knees, spitting blood non-stop. She turns to Kai and asks what the hell he is, not understanding anything. She also asks what he has against her to do something like this. He then responds seriously, saying he made a promise a long time ago. She gives a small smirk, stating she has no idea what he's talking about. But one thing becomes clear to her. The girl admits she cannot defeat him. Kai doesn't understand the sudden change, not knowing what she's going to do. Then Elsa wipes the blood from her mouth, making an important decision. She tears her own clothes, ripping off the bottom part of her outfit. Then she turns to him with a new look, ready to make a proposal. And with a smile on her face, the redhead asks him to make her his woman. He remains silent, just staring at the woman after her unexpected proposal. From a distance, Walter and Sasha are shocked, finding Elsa to be a very audacious woman. The soldiers are also surprised, unable to believe their former commander's attitude. Kai continues to process the situation, thinking about what to do next. She boasts, saying she is strong and beautiful, and that he should accept her. Then, the redhead tries to advance, telling the Demon King to just embrace her, but he repels her with a blast of energy, throwing her far away from him. Elsa is irritated by the rejection, not liking being dismissed like that. With his magic, Kai blocks her approach, showing that he wants no contact. He warns her not to mess with him, or next time he'll fight back for real. Just then, Griselda arrives and explains that Kai only spared her because he wanted her alive. Elsa recognizes her, and the elf asks if she remembered the face of a slave. With a smile, she asks if Griselda came back to be sold at the auction again. Kai and the white-haired elf stand side by side, facing the red-haired warrior. Confused, Elsa asks why she's there, and if she has allied with the Demon King. Griselda stares at the warrior with a cold gaze, showing no emotion. With that, Elsa understands everything and yells that they planned this reunion. She then grips her sword tighter, preparing for one last attack, and with hatred, the redhead charges at the elf, screaming that she's going to kill her now. Walter and Sasha worry, surprised that she can still move in this state. Kai notices that even injured, Elsa is still a very formidable opponent, but it's explained to us that Griselda is now one of his 4 heavenly kings. The warrior is terrified, feeling the power difference between them. Griselda says that she would normally kill her, but today will be different. Then, she launches an attack with her mana, heading towards her opponent. The magic traps Elsa, who screams, asking how she got so strong. The elf then orders her to swear loyalty to Lord Kai if she wants to live. Being choked, the redhead is in shock, unable to believe what she just heard. She feels her power release starting to fade away, and as her transformation ends, the warrior is left completely powerless. Griselda clenches her hand tighter, increasing the spell's pressure on the warrior. With the magic around her neck, Elsa screams in pain, being slowly suffocated. With no choice, she yells that she swears, that she will swear loyalty to him right now. Kai then gives a condition, telling her she will hand over her entire fortune to him. The redhead is outraged by the demand, gritting her teeth with so much hatred, but in the end, she accepts the deal, saying it's fine with her. The scene then changes, taking us to a castle that the group has taken over. Inside, Griselda celebrates enthusiastically, shouting with a smile that they did it. She sits on the throne, remembering she never thought she would sit there again. Mia asks if a shorty can be the Demon King, which irritates Griselda, but Sasha defends her, saying Griselda will serve as Kai's representative. Elsewhere, Elsa pressures Mia, asking how to break the contract she made. The cat girl gets scared, replying that she has no idea how. Just then, Kai appears and asks Elsa where she thinks betrayal begins. With that question, her collar tightens, making the redhead feel immediate pain. He names her as one of the 4 heavenly kings, placing a magical seal on her. Kai just clenches his fist, feeling her anger but not caring about it. But she swears to herself that one day she'll have his head. She just has to wait. He then explains that this is a servitude contract, and if she betrays him, she will die. The warrior panics at the revelation, screaming in disbelief at what she heard. Defeated, she falls to the floor cursing, while the cat girls watch the scene from a distance. Kai then turns around, thinking that he needs all of this to rescue Colette. It's revealed to us that he needs Elsa and her power to save his beloved. Her ability is the only thing strong enough to break a great barrier. We see that this sacred barrier is so powerful that not even a demon can break it. Kai explains that not even Griselda could do it, so the rest of the plan depends on him. He thinks it's almost time to act, and that Colette needs to wait a bit longer. Just then, Griselda finds him, informing him that the envoy from the Red Scorpion group has arrived. He is surprised by their speed and invites her to the negotiation with the demons. She says she doesn't mind, but asks if he's leaving right after the conversation. He confirms that he is, that he'll get out of there as fast as he can. Griselda looks at him, noticing his hurry to get things done. She then comments that he must really like that girl a lot. Kai keeps a neutral expression, thinking about what she just said, but soon he breaks into a smile, confirming that yes, he really does like her. With his answer, the elf turns and starts walking ahead of him. She says she'll go on ahead then, and that she'll be waiting for him there. But on the way, Elsa stops her, shouting and looking for the Demon King. From a distance, a hooded man observes their interaction on the balcony. He hides in the bushes, unable to believe what's happening right there. The man wonders if the powerful Elsa really lost to the Demon King. With that, he decides he needs to report this to Lord Johann immediately. But suddenly, Mateo appears in his demonic form, blocking his escape. He informs him that by Kai's order, the spy will now also be an informant. The man screams in terror, being attacked by a high-ranking demon. The spy screams for his master, but is captured with no chance of escaping. The scene then shifts, showing us the details of an elegant dress. Johann laughs, saying the new outfit suited the girl very well. It is then revealed that this woman is Colette, the saint taken hostage. At that moment, a magical necklace glows on her neck, while laughter echoes in the background. The scene flashes back to a few days ago, in the kingdom's holy capital. One of the maids compliments Colette, telling her she looks wonderful in the dress, but the girl remains with a sad expression, ignoring the compliment. We see her being captured, screaming for the guards to let her go at once. She refuses to return to the capital, shouting that she is with Kai now. Johann then questions her, asking if she means she's with the Demon King. With a cold gaze, he informs her she will never see her beloved again. We return to the castle, where she is now being held as a prisoner. Night falls over the kingdom, the full moon shining brightly in the dark sky. Johann lets out a laugh, watching the saint from afar with an air of superiority. He says she looks splendid, praising the girl's beauty in the dress. With a smile, he thinks to himself that she is a saint, the perfect match for him. But Colette cuts him off, asking what he is trying to do to her. Suddenly, another girl runs in, desperately shouting Colette's name. She says she was worried because she heard the saint had been kidnapped by the Demon King. Colette is surprised to see the girl, calling out to her as Princess Angelica. Angelica asks if the Demon King hurt her, but the saint tries to explain the misunderstanding. From a distance, Johann watches their conversation with a malicious look. Just then, an older man appears, worriedly asking if Colette is all right. She is surprised to see him there, calling him father, with a tense expression. Johann then intrudes, claiming the Demon King has cursed and brainwashed her. The two are shocked by the revelation, unable to believe what they've just heard. The saint screams that it's a lie and that Kai would never do that, which activates the curse. Magical chains immediately bind her, and she realizes they are the same ones from before. We are shown that the chains are actually a spell to silence her. Johann just gives a slight smirk, seeing that his plan is working. The princess and her father are terrified, thinking this is the curse he mentioned. Even while bound, she tries to say that Kai is a hero who saved them all. She falls to her knees and weakly asks Angelica what happened with Johann. The princess is confused, asking what she means by that. The princess's eyes widen, completely shocked by what she's seeing. Johann then tells her not to listen to Colette, claiming she's not well. He keeps lying, saying this is the curse of the wicked Demon King Kai. Even gagged, the saint tries to scream Johann's name, filled with rage. He asks the princess to go to her room and leave her alone until she calms down. With a fake look of concern, Johann assures her they will take good care of Colette. Princess Angelica agrees, although she seems a bit suspicious of the whole situation. With that, the door closes, leaving the saint alone with the two men. Johann turns to the Marquis and says he can see how things are. Colette's father is terrified by the scene, breaking into a cold sweat, unsure of what to do. She begs him to listen, trying to explain that Kai isn't a villain. The man remains frozen, an expression of fear and complete despair on his face. Feigning pity, Johann says it's heartbreaking to see Lady Colette like this. The maids are also horrified, unable to believe the scene unfolding before them. He then reveals his insane side, yelling about her running away with the Demon King. Colette desperately shouts that she wasn't deceived by anyone, but Johann keeps laughing, saying it's impossible for her to be in her right mind. Her father remains silent, just watching the scene with a serious face. She then begs her father, pleading with him not to be deceived by Johann. At this, the Marquis turns and says he wants to proceed with their prior arrangement. Johann gives a victorious smile, thanking Colette's father for his decision. The saint is confused, asking what the two of them were talking about. He approaches and reveals he's referring to their engagement. To her shock, she is completely frozen, in a state of shock from the news she just heard. Johann explains that as the Holy One, he is destined to be with Lady Colette. Her father agrees, saying that for someone so tainted, this is the best outcome. But Colette refuses to accept it, screaming that she actually belongs to Kai. Outraged, her father yells that Kai has fallen to darkness and attacked his own father. She has no reaction to the news, completely stunned by the revelation. Johann then thanks him for his kindness and asks the Marquis to leave them alone now. Johann lowers his head, beginning to reveal his true plan to her. He boasts that he now has authority over the entire church and its armies. In a threatening tone, he warns her to think carefully if she wants to help the Demon King. He then questions if a true saint would really resort to threats to get her way, but Johann laughs, saying that threats are only natural when it comes to divine justice. It is explained that the prayer room only works with a saint and a holy relic. With a cynical look, he thanks her for her cooperation in activating the barrier. He compliments her, saying that even in this situation, she is still very beautiful. Colette thinks that living with him wouldn't be so bad, but there was a catch. Johann then reveals his ambition, saying that he actually desires everything, and that includes her power as the powerful and unique Saint of Time. He tells her not to worry, because in the next cycle she will still belong to him. But the saint screams in despair, saying that will never happen. With tears in her eyes, she glares at the man with hatred, refusing to accept. Her only thought is that she wants to be with Kai, not with him. She stares at Johann with contempt, saying she would rather die than accept the engagement. He is completely shocked by her answer, unable to believe what he just heard. Then she warns him that if he tries to force her to obey, she will choose death herself. The man becomes furious with her stubbornness, finding the whole situation ridiculous. At this, he grabs her forcefully, yelling that if she does that, the Demon King, but she cuts him off, shouting that Kai will never lose to someone like him. Johann then backs down, saying that's fine, as he has all the time in the world. At that moment, one of his subordinates appears at the door, looking very concerned. The man enters the room, informing Lord Johann that he has an urgent report for him. Irritated, he asks what it is and why he's being bothered right now. The soldier apologizes, but says he cannot discuss the matter in front of her. He clicks his tongue, clearly frustrated at being interrupted. At this, Johann hands Colette a book, saying it was a request from her maid. The saint is silent for a moment, just looking at the book in her hands, and seizing the chance, she runs to the door and calls for Matteo, asking for help. Night comes and the moon illuminates the window as she wonders what she should do. Alone in the huge room, Colette feels completely lost and hopeless. Holding the book, she wonders if Kai knows she's trapped in this place. She laments, thinking that if she hadn't let her guard down, the archdemon wouldn't have died. But suddenly the book opens and a mysterious letter falls out from inside. The saint picks up the paper from the floor, curious to know what was written on it, and upon reading the message, she is surprised, wondering what it is. With a racing heart, she realizes the letter is from her beloved Kai. He explains that he understood the situation and is already gathering his allies to act. In the end, he apologizes for leaving her alone and promises to rescue her. Colette holds the letter dearly, thinking of Kai and filling with hope. With a determined look, she tells herself that she will wait for him. The scene then changes, taking us to a more remote room inside the castle. There, Johann scolds Matteo, asking what he was thinking by acting so rashly. He shouts that the purifiers are shadows and shouldn't expose themselves like that. The man sighs, wondering if this is about the mission to subjugate the Demon King. We see Kai thinking that this is already his enemy's second life, but Matteo reveals it was an annihilation, and he is the sole survivor. Johann is completely shocked by the news, as two guards appear behind him. He can't believe such a strong purifier was defeated so easily. With that, he orders the alert level to be raised and the troops reorganize. Matteo lifts his face and agrees, his eyes glowing a shade of blue. Johann walks towards a giant door, watched by two castle guards. He then pushes the heavy gates with his hand, revealing what's inside. He reports to the church council, who congratulates him on his good work on the report. The man remains silent for a moment, just listening to his superior's orders. The elder orders them to gather the hero candidates, including Johann, to protect the capital. It's announced that the Demon King will be defeated by the forces of the Holy Church. The knights kneel and accept the order, promising to follow the council's command. He then thinks this means a large-scale battle against the enemy, and with a smile on his face, he vows this will be the end of the Demon King. The scene shifts, taking us to the Demon King's castle elsewhere. Matteo returns from his mission, reporting to his new master, Kai. He informs him that he successfully delivered the letter to Colette, as ordered. Kai then asks about Colette, wanting to know her current situation. It's explained that she's safe, but the security prevents any escape. He clenches his fist tightly, thinking he needs to hurry and rescue her. Matteo asks Kai to look at some papers, showing a new report. He reveals its confidential information about the Holy Capital's defenses. Kai is surprised, because besides the barrier, they have a device that drains mana. We see that these devices are lined up all along the wall. He realizes that even if they break the barrier, they would fight with no magic at all. With that, he becomes thoughtful, understanding the situation is more problematic than it seemed. He tells Matteo to continue the preparations, while he thinks about what to do next. Suddenly, Kai gets an idea, a very determined look on his face. The scene changes to Elsa, who was training and is now drinking something to rest. Then a giant shadow appears and asks if she's the one they call Elsa. The monster's axe hits the ground with force, causing huge damage to the area. She looks at the tower, which starts to beep and crack from the impact. And with a loud crash, the entire structure collapses, kicking up a lot of dust. The redhead is impressed, recognizing the incredible power of that attack. And in front of the rubble, the demon faces the warrior, preparing to fight. The demon announces he's there to claim the former Demon King's territory. Elsa then draws her sword, getting ready to fight the threat. With a smirk, she informs him that the territory has just been taken by someone else. He becomes furious, asking if other demons did such a thing, but the warrior immediately denies it, explaining it was actually humans. The monster then decides he'll kill her first and then the humans who helped her. She stares at the enemy's size, thinking he's too big for her. The rest of the group comes running, wondering if it's a demon attack. From inside the castle, Kai just watches the unfolding battle. Griselda is in shock, seeming to recognize the creature that appeared. Elsa tells him not to look away and enhances her skills to attack. Then, she unleashes a blast of fire at the demon with full force. Her attack creates a slash of crimson flames, heading straight for the target. But to everyone's surprise, the monster manages to withstand the blow without any problem. Griselda is stunned by the scene, realizing who that mysterious enemy is. Suddenly, a red attack and a white one collide, creating an explosion. The two energy slashes cancel each other out, stopping the demon's attack. Elsa and the monster shout at each other, competing to see who is stronger. The impact of their powers generates white smoke, covering the entire battlefield. The demon is confused by the scene, not understanding what just happened. It's revealed that Kai was the one who stopped the blow, absorbing all the damage into his body. With a serious look, he says it landed right there, showing he predicted the move. Elsa is speechless, unable to believe he managed to stop all that power. The monster is shocked, asking if he really managed to stop his attack. Kai then questions him, asking who he is to cause all this trouble. Just then, Griselda shouts Balrog's name, recognizing her old companion. The demon reveals himself, overjoyed to see his princess is still alive. Elsa and Walter are speechless, looking at him with blank expressions. Kai is confused by the situation, wondering why he called her a princess. Balrog gives a huge grin, celebrating and thanking that she's safe and sound. With a big grin, he yells that the princess has grown so much since last time. Elsa asks if Griselda knows him, thinking his voice is way too loud. But the elf happily greets him, asking where he's been all this time. He explains he was on a warrior's journey, but came back when he heard about the castle. Kai grows thoughtful, getting the feeling he's seen Balrog somewhere before. Then, the demon gets serious, staring at Kai with a suspicious look. He keeps watching Kai, seeming bothered by the young man's presence. Griselda senses the tension and says she needs to introduce Kai-sama. Balrog is shocked to hear the name, repeating, Kai-sama? In disbelief, she stands beside Kai, showing that they are now true allies. Kai faces the demon seriously, saying it seems an explanation is needed. He continues to stare at Kai, a look of doubt and suspicion on his face. The scene shifts inside to the hall, where the two finally stand face to face. He then sits on the floor, and we're told that he's an ogre. Kai reflects that this is the strongest warrior race, with completely insane power. But Walter announces that preparations for the operation are almost ready, and Kai agrees. Outraged, Balrog asks what he's plotting, suspicious of his intentions. Then Griselda introduces him again, saying this man is the great Balrog. She explains he was one of the 4 heavenly kings of her father, the former Demon King. Kai is shocked by the revelation, shouting the name of the famous elite group, and with that, he remembers facing him 5 years later in his other life. Balrog says he doesn't understand the situation and why demons and humans are together. We are shown that the castle is now a place where everyone lives in peace. He gets closer to Kai, continuing to ask what's going on. The ogre questions why he has turfing, the legendary sword of the Demon King. Kai falls silent for a moment, preparing to give his answer, and with a serious look, he reveals it's because he himself is the Demon King. Balrog becomes furious, asking what he just said, in utter disbelief. It's explained to us that it's natural for him not to accept Kai's answer. Kai thinks it's obvious, since a human just declared himself the Demon King. But Griselda and Sasha defend him, saying they owe their lives to Kai-sama. Balrog is confused, wondering why they've sworn loyalty to a human. Suddenly, he clenches his fist tightly, shattering a stone pillar. With a roar, he destroys the entire column, showing all his fury. He asks Sasha if she's forgotten the last words of the former Demon King. The elf gulps, afraid of her old comrade's reaction. He turns to everyone, saying he doesn't know what nonsense they've heard. But now, the ogre shouts that Princess Griselda is the one and only true heir to the throne. She remains silent, arms crossed, just observing her friend's reaction. He refuses to accept it, finding it impossible for a human to be the demon king. But Griselda defends him, saying that Kai-sama has the qualities of a king. Balrog grinds his teeth in rage, refusing to accept the princess's stance in this situation. At that, Kai turns and calls the ogre's name, ready to intervene. He tells him he can decide whether to accept him as king after the attack on the capital. Balrog is shocked by the proposal, breaking into a cold sweat, unable to believe what he just heard. He yells, asking if Kai is serious about attacking the holy capital. The ogre says the place has stood for centuries, and a human could never take it. But Kai corrects him, explaining it won't just be humans, but demons and humans together. Balrog finds it all ridiculous, saying their dreams are far too foolish. Kai remains unfazed, stating that, in any case, this isn't the time for this conversation. He orders everyone to start preparing for the great siege of the holy capital. With a serious look, he informs them all that they leave the next day. Enraged, the ogre raises his axe and yells at Kai, ready to attack. But Griselda steps in front of him at that very moment, blocking Balrog's advance. The demon stops his attack, falling silent for a brief moment. She then warns him not to get in the way of her master, Kai-sama. Furious, he asks why she's siding with a mere human. The elf tells him to ask around, as Kai has saved most of the people here. We're shown that the castle has become a home for everyone he rescued. The cat girls look at him, supporting the decision to follow the new demon king. The people of the castle smile, showing they trust Kai and his leadership, but Balrog refuses to believe it, thinking it can't possibly be true. He curses, frustrated that he can't understand what's happening in the castle. Angrily, the ogre turns and storms off, throwing the doors open with force. He thinks that the former king's will was for the princess to become his successor. Balrog continues on his way, still outraged by the whole situation. Just then, another demon finds him and points out that he's running off alone again. He complains about the delay and asks where the others are, but they're still at the fortress. Suddenly, a noise from the forest catches the attention of the ogre and his companions. He immediately realizes they've been followed to this place. The two demons grow tense, looking up at the rain that begins to fall from the sky. And emerging from the bushes, a group of holy knights surrounds the three demons. Balrog orders them to come out, noticing there are about 10 knights in total. With a shout of "Idiots!" he charges at the enemies with everything he's got. The knights advance as a group, yelling as they prepare to attack the ogre. A spear is thrown with great speed, heading straight for Balrog's back. The soldier attacks with his weapon, trying to pierce the demon with a direct hit, but the ogre turns and catches the tip of the spear with his fingers effortlessly. He stops the attack in midair, showing that the knight's strength is nothing to him. The man is shocked, stammering in disbelief that his spear was stopped so easily. Balrog then says that to him, it's nothing more than a twig, and attacks him. With one blow, he smashes the soldier's head into the ground with pure force. He tosses the rest of the spear aside, preparing to face the rest of the group. The other knights scream in fear, completely terrified by the scene they just witnessed. With a new cut on his face, he warns that he'll let only one of them live. The scene takes us to the ogre tribe's forward base, a well-fortified place. Inside, a servant reports to their leader, Balrog, saying he has investigated a human named Kai. Balrog then asks with a serious look what bad things he discovered, but the servant explains that everyone says Kai is a nobleman who helps the demon tribe. He grows suspicious of the story, thinking there must be some dirty plan behind it, so he changes the subject and asks what's happening elsewhere. Then, Balrog and his men enter an interrogation room to handle some business. One of the guards approaches the prisoner, while Balrog watches everything closely. He then pulls a sack off the man's head and asks if he's ready to talk. The prisoner, beaten and bruised, says he'll tell them everything about that man's role. Balrog is confused by the answer, asking what he means by that. The man reveals that Kai is the son of the captain of the Holy Knights, an enemy. Hearing this revelation, Balrog is completely shocked, unable to believe what he's heard. The prisoner yells that Kai is one of the knights and a traitor to his own race. Angrily, Balrog grabs the man's face, who desperately begs him to stop. Processing the information, Balrog's face darkens as he understands the gravity of the situation. With a look full of rage, he gives the order to gather everyone immediately. The scene then shifts to a beautiful white castle, rising majestically on the horizon. Inside a sacred area, we see several stone tombs lined with crosses. It's explained that an army of undead former holy knights exists there. In addition to them, there are also the demons who were enslaved in the castle's mines. Griselda appears at a window, revealing that their army has at most 1,000 soldiers, but the enemy has tens of times more, plus a barrier and magical weapons. She's worried about the disadvantage, but Kai appears right behind her, looking very calm. Griselda turns in surprise and calls his name, not understanding his tranquility. Kai admits the power difference seems enormous, making an invasion almost impossible. The elf is startled and questions his use of the word seems, waiting for an answer, but he just gives her a confident smile and says everything will be all right. He comforts her, reminding her that everyone is here and their quality is superior. Together, they look towards the enemy capital, determined to destroy everything and save Colette. Griselda gets excited about their plan, asking with a smile if he's right, but a messenger comes running, announcing that an envoy from Balrog has just arrived. Kai then looks to the side with a serious expression, already guessing what's coming. The scene cuts to the ogre messenger, who bows and shouts a deep apology. He has a regretful look on his face, as if he made a huge mistake, but Kai is unmoved, and comments that's not the right attitude for an apology. The ogre explains that Balrog wants to apologize and invites him to a banquet in the village. The protagonist finds the invitation quite selfish, being summoned for an apology. He finds the sudden change strange, but decides to refuse because he's too busy right now. At the refusal, the messenger takes a deep breath, clearly irritated by the response. He stands up with a threatening aura and asks if Kai understands what this means, and warns him that refusing an invitation from the ogre tribe is a very serious mistake. Kai realizes it will be a problem to have them as enemies, and that he has no choice. Seeing Sasha so worried, he just tells her that everything will be okay. Then he turns to Walter and tells him to lead everyone ahead of them. He then calls for Griselda and Sasha to come along, and they agree at once. With a weary look, Kai turns to the messenger, preparing to go with him. He then asks the ogre to guide them to the village, accepting the forced invitation. The whole group starts walking, led by the enormous ogres to their village. Upon arriving, Griselda says it's also her first time visiting this place. She's impressed by the size of everything, finding the structures there gigantic. The trio stands in the middle of the village, observing the ogre's rustic environment. Kai then comments that there are barely any structures that look like real houses, but the ogre replies that they don't need them, as they have no enemies to challenge them. Kai listens in silence but continues to analyze the place with a suspicious gaze. The camera focuses on an ogre's arm, showing how gigantic they are next to Kai. He then questions why they wear armor if they truly have no enemies. The messenger gets a bit flustered by the question, awkwardly turning his face away, and makes the excuse that they were just returning from a battle, that it's just a coincidence. Kai stares at him with a look that makes it clear he didn't believe the answer. A purple aura appears, and Kai instantly realizes that something is very wrong. The ogre messenger gets nervous and asks if the excuse he gave was sufficient. Kai finds it all very strange, since the ogre tribe isn't supposed to have magical power. The guide then hurries the group along, saying that leader Balrog is waiting for them. They finally arrive at the entrance of a giant cave, which serves as the ogre's base. With a gesture, the messenger invites everyone to enter and meet the chief, but Kai uses his senses and warns that there are people already waiting for them up ahead. The ogre gives a very sinister smile and just tells them to move forward. He continues to guide the group into the cave, leading them all into a trap. With a serious look, Kai faces the situation, already prepared for any danger that might appear. The group continues walking through the cave, crossing a very rickety wooden bridge. Kai figures this must be the center of the village, and he wonders about traps. But the strangest thing is that he senses someone's presence who isn't from the tribe. He then warns his companions to stay alert, because danger is coming. Just then, the guide opens a curtain and asks if this is where they need to go. Kai stares at the passage with a serious look, ready for whatever comes next. Upon entering, Balrog and his men welcome Kai, who was already expecting it. The ogre leader also greets Griselda with a very suspicious smile on his face. Kai tells them to cut the ceremony short, as they're in a hurry and need to leave. The camera shows the place as a large banquet hall, with a table full of food. Unintimidated, the protagonist sits down, staying on high alert the entire time. Balrog comments that he's being a bit cold, ignoring their whole reception. He invites him to a meeting about the future, telling him to enjoy the banquet. Griselda gets excited about the food and immediately starts devouring everything in sight. The table is truly lavish, with several dishes that look delicious. Seeing the food, Kai's eyes widen as he instantly realizes what's happening. But Griselda doesn't even notice, and shouts happily that the food is delicious. She and Sasha feast on the rare foods, while Kai remains serious and thoughtful. Balrog laughs and says he's happy for her, but soon turns his attention to Kai. He points out that the protagonist hasn't eaten anything yet, creating a tense atmosphere. Then the ogre leader asks what's wrong, with a very suspicious look. Kai just closes his eyes and replies that it's nothing, trying to hide his concern. Even so, he scoops up a bit of food with his spoon, preparing to taste it, and then he finally eats the first bite, under the watchful eyes of everyone there. Balrog's eyes glow red, waiting for something to happen to the young man. But Kai surprises everyone, saying with a smile that the food is very tasty. Balrog is a bit taken aback and just replies that he's glad he liked it. The other ogres at the table keep watching, still waiting for a result. Everyone in the room stares at the protagonist, not understanding why nothing happened. In the middle of the banquet, Griselda drops her bowl, feeling a sharp pain in her stomach. Sasha is frightened by the scene and screams her name, not understanding what happened. Just then, she feels the same pain and realizes they've both just been poisoned. The two then collapse on the table, brought down by the poison they ate. Kai feigns surprise at the scene and asks what the hell happened to them, but Balrog reveals he knew everything and asks Griselda for forgiveness for what he's done. He turns his back and warns that a human like Kai can't grant her wish. The protagonist then holds Griselda and asks, already knowing the answer, if he poisoned them. Balrog confirms he gave them a paralyzing poison, but a lethal one for Kai. Kai plays dumb and asks why he would do such a thing. The ogre leader gets angry, slams his axe on the floor, and tells him to stop pretending. He yells that he knows about the plan to massacre the tribe and that he'll stop this madness. The hero then asks with a concerned look who told him that. Balrog reveals it was an ally and finds it strange that Kai is still so calm, but Kai just gives a little smile and asks if that was all their trap amounted to. Kai approaches the fallen girls and tells them their act can be over now. Just then, the two get up, and Griselda praises their performance, saying it was great. The ogres are in shock and shout in outrage that they faked being poisoned. But Kai reveals that dealing with poison is a dark mage's specialty. He and Griselda face their enemies, showing they were ready for this all along. It's explained that he used his magic to detoxify the food before they ate. Balrog is furious and asks Kai if he knew about the trap the whole time, and Griselda shouts back that of course they knew, leaving the ogres stunned. She recalls the clues like the threatening invitation and the pointless armor. The messenger looks embarrassed as she says their trap was way too obvious. Griselda adds that the way he spoke already gave away that something was wrong. Balrog gets angry at the plan's failure and decides to resort to violence. He says poison isn't his style and prepares for a one-on-one fight. And then he yells that he's going to beat some understanding into Kai. Kai isn't intimidated and summons his sword, Tearfing, ready for the coming fight. Balrog is surprised to see that Kai has another powerful magic sword. Griselda and Sasha get ready to help in the fight, already bearing their claws, but Kai yells for them to stay out of it, just as Balrog's axe comes down. He manages to defend against the blow, blocking the giant blade with his sword. The protagonist immediately feels the heavy impact, just as he expected. Balrog is shocked to see that the young man actually managed to stop his full force attack. He acknowledges that Kai isn't the son of the Knight Commander for nothing, praising his strength, but he warns that he won't be fooled by the Holy Knight's plan and continues his attack. Kai is a bit confused by his words, not understanding what he's talking about. Just then, the giant ogre charges, yelling for him to die, and unleashes another powerful blow. He's surprised again, as Kai manages to dodge the attack by a hair's breadth. Using his shadow walk ability, the protagonist appears behind Balrog in the blink of an eye. The ogre panics, unable to keep up with the boy's absurd speed, and from above, Kai already prepares his counterattack, staring intently at his target. He uses Balrog's head as a foothold as a red magic circle forms there, and then he hits him squarely with the Shadow Blade, a devastating and precise attack. The blow lands squarely, leaving Balrog stunned, his eyes white with pain. But he remains standing, releasing a dark aura, while Kai recovers on the ground. Griselda and Sasha watch the scene in silence, clearly worried about the fight's outcome. The other ogres panic, desperately screaming their lord's name. Kai then gets up, telling himself that this should be enough. In immense pain, Balrog can barely believe he was wounded by a single blow. The protagonist then glances to the side, his expression serious, preparing his next move. Suddenly, a shower of light arrows appears from nowhere, flying across the hall. The arrows strike the other ogres dead on, and they scream in pain from their injuries. To protect themselves, Kai and the girls create a wall of darkness, blocking the projectiles. The hero is surprised by the unexpected attack and wonders what the hell that is. More ogres are hit, and they wonder where so many surprise attacks are coming from. Balrog becomes furious watching his men fall, and he yells in anger at those responsible. Just then, one of the light arrows hits his face, grazing past his eye. He trembles with rage, a vein popping on his forehead from so much anger. Kai understands everything. He realizes the magical presence is his own father's. Then Geese, the leader of the knights, appears with his men, calling his son's name. The camera focuses on his gauntlet, which glows with a powerful red energy. He scoffs, saying he expected this, since Kai was the one who tore off his arm. We see that the Holy Knights have already easily defeated all the ogres in the hall. Geese complains, saying he hoped the fight would have worn Kai out more, but he concludes that demons have no intelligence, looking at Balrog's body on the floor. And he's still annoyed because they couldn't even kill a single dark mage. Kai is in shock at the scene, unable to believe what's happening. He then realizes his father deceived the ogre tribe just to kill him. Geese just gives a smirk, saying that fools believe what they want to. Angrily, Kai asks if he also plans to slaughter the entire ogre tribe. The knight stares back with a serious gaze, showing not an ounce of compassion. And he coldly confirms that yes, he will kill them all without any problem. Hearing this, Kai understands his father's cruelty and closes his eyes, processing it all. Balrog and Kai glare at each other with hatred, and they both scream that they will never forgive each other. With that, the protagonist charges forward, but his father calls him a fool for underestimating him. He then takes out a vial, showing he had an ace up his sleeve the whole time. And without a second thought, he drinks the entire green liquid that was inside. Kai is surprised by this and wonders what the hell that potion is. Geese explains that it's a secret elixir from Lord Johan, which grants the power of a hero. At that, his muscles begin to swell, and his body transforms completely. The young man is in shock at what he sees, breaking into a cold sweat at the transformation. He wonders if that absurd power is really that of a true hero, and he continues to doubt that such a convenient potion could actually exist. One of the ogres warns that the tribe can't fight anymore after the last attack, but Griselda shouts for Kai to leave the rest of the knights to her and Sasha. The fight resumes, and Geese attacks with a chain, using all his new strength. He strains with all his might, his face filled with rage, ready to crush his son. But Kai just stares down the attack, waiting for the right moment to counter. Geese doesn't like the delay in the fight and lets out a grunt of pure rage. The impact of the battle is so powerful that the entire cavern floor shatters. Seeing this, an ogre yells for everyone to run, as they would only be a burden to Balrog. Meanwhile, the knights create a holy wall to defend themselves from the destruction. Their leader confirms the order to hold on and then finish off the weakened ogres. But the soldier is confused, wondering why Kai is on the demon's side. Just then, Griselda attacks with her power, using her own blood as a deadly weapon. One of the knights panics, unable to believe the magic coming his way. She then fires a blood lance, which pierces several enemies at once. Griselda warns that the cavern is about to collapse, and tells Sasha to get the ogres out of there. The blonde elf then kicks the ground hard, launching herself to get out quickly. Doing a flip in the air, she confirms the order and heads off on the rescue mission. The scene cuts back to the main fight, with Balrog and Geese locked in a stalemate. Geese yells excitedly that this is the power of a hero he has always dreamed of, but Balrog tells him not to get cocky and presses the sword against the knight's neck. Balrog is shocked, not understanding what absurd power he is feeling. Geese then mocks him, asking why his face is contorting. With that, he takes the chance and shoves his sword deep into Balrog's chest. The ogre leader feels the terrible pain, letting out a final groan before falling to the ground. But Kai acts quickly and casts his magic, trapping both opponents in place. He uses the demon binding ability, focusing all his energy on the two targets. His father doesn't understand, observing the magic circles that appear around them. With that, blood claws erupt from the ground and bind them both, leaving them immobile. Geese yells furiously, saying he won't be caught by a filthy mage's trick. He refuses to be captured and uses all his strength to try and break the spell. The knight then releases a sacred power, using his sword to cut the chains. And he still mocks Kai, saying it's foolish to challenge his father with such a useless class. With a cry of absurd, he launches a wave of energy towards Kai. The protagonist barely dodges, feeling the power of the attack graze past him. He agrees that it's an absurd power, but he glares back at his father, ready for the next round. Geese praises his son's power, but laments that he wasn't born a hero. Kai dives to the ground to dodge and simply replies that it's all right then. The knight panics at the response, not understanding why he's so calm, but the young man reveals to him that what he used really is a hero's power. Hearing this, Geese's eyes widen as he realizes the terrible truth behind the potion. Kai then creates a wall of shadows, leaving his father with no escape route, and to make sure, he uses the blood prison again, immobilizing his enemy's foot. With a simple gesture, the protagonist prepares to end this once and for all. From the ground, several blood hands emerge, ready to grab the knight's body. They bind him tightly, mercilessly squeezing his neck and all his limbs. Geese screams in agony, spitting blood from his mouth from the unbearable pain he feels. The scene cuts to Balrog, who watches the fight's conclusion, still badly wounded. Kai then explains that the potion wasn't an elixir, but a poison that kills in minutes. Balrog is shocked and begins to cry in despair as he understands he was deceived. The protagonist says he feels sorry, as he was just a disposable pawn for Johan. Geese pleads for him to wait, trying to say he didn't want to be a hero this way, but his body explodes into blood spikes, meeting a tragic and painful end. Amidst the wreckage, Kai stands victorious after the difficult battle he fought. His face stained with blood, he stares into the void, processing his own father's death. Just then, a worried Griselda approaches and asks if he's okay after everything. He just gives her a tired smile and tells her not to worry about him. He then remembers that Johan set all this up just to kill him for good. Seeing his father's sword on the ground, Kai thinks that everything is his fault. He clenches his fist in frustration as Griselda continues to watch him in silence. She asks how Geese died, and he explains it was from one of Johan's fatal potions. Balrog then questions him, wanting to know if the commander really was his father. Kai confirms he came to kill him, and because of that, nothing matters to him anymore. The ogre leader breathes a sigh of relief. Finally understanding the whole truth behind the fight, he decides to cancel the meeting since everyone is injured, and Kai agrees to wait. But the protagonist uses a dark heal, and a purple light begins to heal the ogres. With his hand glowing, he says with a smile that this should be enough. The ogres are impressed, shouting that their wounds are healing on their own. Balrog's eyes well up with tears, touched by Kai's unexpected action. The ogres then thank Kai Austin, overjoyed to have been saved by him. The protagonist watches the scene in silence, until Balrog approaches to talk. He asks why Kai helped them, even after they tried to kill him. Kai just stares at the ogre leader, keeping a very serious expression on his face. And then he reveals that saving the demon tribe was a promise he made to Griselda. Hearing this, Balrog seems to finally understand the young man's true motivations. He gives a slight smile, saying he now understands why the princess cares so much. With that, he entrusts her safety to Kai, asking him to protect her well. The group says goodbye to the ogres, who stay behind as they continue their journey. Griselda asks if Balrog won't come with them, since it would be safer, but he refuses the invitation, explaining that his only master is Griselda herself. Kai then suggests they meet again after the capital is conquered. Balrog faces him with determination and tells him not to worry about it, and Kai reinforces that he will act as a demon lord for the tribe because it's a promise. Balrog listens to the promise with a serious look, seeming to reflect on his words. Kai says he will prove his loyalty, and that they will talk until he is convinced. With that, Balrog admits that Kai is quite a guy, and promises to apologize properly. Griselda blushes, happy to see they've finally made peace. The other ogres are also relieved, celebrating the new alliance that has been formed. With a big smile, Balrog says goodbye and confidently states they will see each other again. The group then turns and continues on their way, leaving the ogre village behind. They continue their journey, moving further and further away from their new allies' territory. Griselda regrets that Balrog didn't come along, but Kai says they need to find Walter. But suddenly, a badly injured holy knight stands up, using his sword for support. Despite bleeding heavily, he manages to gather his strength to call out Lord Kai's name. Griselda gets angry and prepares to fight, but Kai stops her from moving forward. The protagonist recognizes the knight and is surprised to see he survived the attack. The man says he doesn't accept this betrayal and demands an explanation for everything. Griselda is confused by the scene and asks Kai who that person is. Kai explains that's Gallard, his former sword instructor, and says it's been a while. But the man is furious about the reunion and asks what he meant by that. The girls are surprised by the scene, not understanding what's going on between the two of them. The protagonist just looks away and remains silent, giving the man no answer. The scene changes, and we see Walter and Elsa leading the great demon army. She then questions Walter, asking why they aren't going straight to the holy capital, but he explains that camping in front of the enemy would be a huge disadvantage for them. We're told it's better to set up a base and wait for the demon lord to arrive. Elsa thinks the strategy is a bit weak, but Walter asks her to call it cautious instead. Suddenly, a giant shadowy creature appears in the sky, frightening everyone there. But the creature turns into a cute little demon, leaving Elsa completely confused by the transformation. Walter tells her not to worry, as it's just a messenger from the demon lord. The small demon announces that he has a message, and that the mission's course has changed. Walter then asks the messenger what new destination they should head to, and it's revealed they must go to Austin Fortress, near the holy capital. Elsa is completely shocked by the revelation, not understanding their new destination. She yells that Austin is the demon lord's name, and Walter confirms it. Then she remembers that attacking his family would be a betrayal, breaking the contract they made. Walter is at a loss for words, clearly shaken by her reprimand, but the small demon tells them not to worry, and to just move forward. With that, the army finally arrives at the gates of the great Austin Fortress. She still suspects it's a trap, but Walter says it should be fine. Just then, the large wooden gates begin to open, kicking up dust. The warrior asks if there are no traps, and he agrees, still a bit suspicious. The demon army then begins to march inside the open fortress, but Walter doesn't seem so sure, and replies that there's probably a trap. And inside, Gallard and his holy knights were already waiting for their arrival. The two are shocked by the ambush, and Walter confirms that it's them. The knight then shouts with all his might, ordering them to drop their swords now. The entire demon army is speechless, surprised by the trap they fell into. Walter then grits his teeth, showing a look full of hatred for the enemy before him, and Elsa gives a sinister smile, clearly excited for the battle about to begin. Walter and Elsa prepare for battle as he orders all units to form up. Suddenly, the swords and shields of all the soldiers simply drop to the ground. Elsa's eyes go wide, completely shocked by what just happened. Beside her, Walter is also frozen, unable to understand the bizarre situation. On the other side, Gallard tells them they've misunderstood, and that they should be the ones to approach. But in the next moment, he surprises everyone, shouting that his army surrenders. Elsa and Walter are in disbelief at the news, shouting in total confusion. She then questions what's going on, unable to comprehend their surrender. Just then, someone's footsteps calmly approach the group of knights. Gallard just turns his head, already expecting the person who was about to arrive, and the one who appears is Kai, who walks past him and comments that he's late. With a smile, he says he's just kidding and that he used magic to get there early. Walter stares at him, frightened, wondering if this could be the Demon Lord. Outraged, Elsa yells that this is treason, refusing to accept what she's seeing. Kai then explains that he spoke with the vice captain since Geese is now dead. Gallard explains that as an order of knights, they cannot cooperate, but they are now prisoners. Elsa, Walter, and the other demons are left speechless, not understanding that logic at all. Then Gallard declares that they will follow Lord Kai, who simply thanks him for the decision. The scene changes, showing Gallard injured on the ground, but still holding his sword firmly. Kai explains that he told the commander that Johann had been using him all this time. He asked for cooperation with the demon army in exchange for saving the surviving members. The hero also reveals he told him about the first cycle, but he doesn't know if he believed it. Elsa questions him, saying she heard he burned down his own house and asking how he can forgive that. Kai then turns to everyone and states that he hasn't forgiven what happened. Gallard adds that, aside from Ares, there were almost no deaths, only a few destroyed houses. He then makes a request, asking Kai not to make him regret trusting him. Kai turns his head, listening intently to the words of the former knight and his new ally. With a firm handshake, he guarantees he won't, saying, "Absolutely." Gallard looks at him with a serious gaze, showing he's placing all his trust in him. Just then, Griselda appears behind the two, observing the deal they've just sealed. Griselda suddenly appears, asking with a cute look if the food is ready yet. Mia says she's starving, and only then notices Griselda has arrived. With a smile, Kai agrees and tells them to take a short break, calling for Sasha. Already in a maid's outfit, Sasha replies yes, and that they can leave it to her. The scene then takes us to a huge mansion, showing the place where they're going to eat. Inside, the whole group is at a lavish table, enjoying a luxurious banquet. Griselda makes a cheerful toast, announcing that tomorrow are the finals and for everyone to eat up. With that, everyone raises their glasses, celebrating the festive moment together. Some of the demons are seen singing and having a great time at the celebration. In another corner, Elsa dances on the table, leaving Walter very embarrassed. Sasha comments to Griselda that it's touching, as it's been a while since she's seen everyone smile. Griselda then looks to the side, saying that all of this is thanks to Lord Kai, but her gaze focuses on Elsa, who is already drinking straight from the bottle without a care. The warrior turns around with a smile, already looking quite drunk. Walter then approaches the two, asking Griselda what happened. Walter tells her not to worry, as everything was going well thanks to the Demon Lord's cleverness. Griselda agrees with a smile, but says she wasn't worried about that at all. He stares at her, completely confused, not understanding what she meant by that response. Just then, Elsa grabs him from behind, yelling that he's an idiot and so dense. She then whispers in his ear, telling him that the Demon Lord is going to help another woman. Griselda asks what she means, but Elsa plays dumb about the situation. But she soon turns around, saying she'll explain to them what was going on. With a teasing smile, she shouts that Griselda is in love with the Demon Lord. Sasha becomes furious and yells at her, while Griselda hides, completely embarrassed. The elf tells Elsa to mind her own business, leaving the warrior speechless. After the scolding, Elsa runs off, fleeing the chaos she herself started. Griselda takes a sip of her drink and asks Walter not to mind what happened. He and Sasha look at her, and Walter asks if she's really in love with him. The elf turns bright red and is speechless when asked about Lord Kai. But suddenly, Kai himself appears nearby and asks if it was true. Kai stares at her with a serious look, catching everyone by surprise with his question. Griselda turns completely red and starts to break out in a cold sweat, not knowing what to say. Just then, Mia appears and announces that the Demon Lord was calling her for a talk. The elf stammers in surprise, asking if Lord Kai really wanted to speak with her. Without a second thought, she turns and shouts that she's on her way, running towards him. The others just watch the scene, with Sasha laughing and Walter looking very worried. He then turns and asks if she'll be okay, afraid of the girl's reaction. The scene changes, and it's now nighttime, showing that the party had finally ended. From a window, we see the silhouette of Kai talking with Balrog inside a room. Griselda then knocks on the door and announces she's coming in, still a bit embarrassed. She enters the room with a flushed face, but tries to maintain her composure in front of them. Kai turns to her and simply says it's good that she came, making the atmosphere tense. Balrog then questions him about the mission, wanting to know if it was a bait for the army. With a serious look, Kai confirms that yes, that was the plan from the very beginning. Griselda stares at him nervously as he continues to explain that this mission was for her. Kai introduces the man in front of him, revealing his name is Gale. The man then introduces himself as the leader of the Red Scorpion mercenaries. Kai observes him and confirms that he is the person he was looking for. With everyone introduced, the hero announces that it's time to start talking about the plan. It is explained that this group is made up of humans and demons who accept any job, but Gale interrupts him, saying firmly that there's no need for any of that. Kai is a bit surprised by his attitude, not understanding what he meant. The leader then reveals that he's already figured out the objective and will use his connection with the Empire. A map shows us the border, explaining that this would force the capital to move its army. Gale says his mercenaries will pose as Paldean troops to create a diversion. He completes the thought, saying this will divert all attention from the holy capital. The hero questions him, asking if he isn't getting a little ahead of himself, but the mercenary reassures him, guaranteeing that his group is always very well prepared. Suddenly, Walter bursts into the room, desperately shouting for the Demon Lord. He then breaks the news, announcing that a giant army from the capital has just arrived. Kai is completely shocked by the news, unable to believe what he just heard, but Gale is unfazed, saying with a smile that they've finally made their move. Griselda and Walter remain tense, facing the situation with great worry and fear. The hero then turns, processing the information that the army was already here. With a dark look, Gale announces that the real negotiation starts now. Just then, someone calls out to Kai, who turns with a serious look, ready to act. We see the imposing army of the sacred capital marching in formation, ready for battle. Gale reveals that tens of thousands of soldiers came straight from the capital to this very spot, and then he confesses that it was his mercenaries who lured the enemy army to them. Kai glares at him angrily, questioning what he's trying to do with this madness, but Gale tells him to calm down, as this was just a business negotiation. He says an army of this size wouldn't come all this way without proper preparation. The scene focuses on the city's buildings, showing that the area is now completely surrounded. Gale explains they wouldn't go to the border for a war that doesn't even exist. With that, he warns that he can change the tide of the battle and asks what Kai's choice will be. The hero doesn't like his tone and asks if that's supposed to be a threat. The mercenary then explains that he'll use any advantage he has in this situation. Kai thinks that Gale is smart, but now he wonders what he'll demand in return. Then he makes his proposal, asking for the absurd amount of 30 million gold. Griselda is outraged, saying they couldn't pay even if they sold the mansion. With a smile, Gale pressures them, asking what's worth more, their lives or their money. Walter says that if an army surrounds them, they'll be annihilated in an instant. Kai just listens to the offer, but then a very confident smile spreads across his face. Gale pressures him, telling him to think it over, but that he might not have time for that. With a simple gesture, the hero raises a finger, getting the mercenary's attention. Gale is confused by his attitude, not understanding what he's trying to say. Kai stares back at him, keeping his finger raised in a very serious expression. With a victorious smile, he makes a counteroffer, 100 million gold. The mercenary leader is dumbfounded, unable to believe what he just heard. He asks if he heard correctly, if Kai really offered him 100 million. Then Kai asks if he's perhaps not satisfied with the new offer. Gale stammers, that's not it, but asks if he can really afford such a high amount. Griselda whispers that not even the national treasury could cover that, but Kai tells her to relax. He then explains that Elsa's assets are available, and that she has hundreds of millions. Griselda and Walter are shocked, but they finally understand where all the money would come from. The scene cuts to Elsa, surrounded by gold, saying that all of it gives her the creeps. Kai tells him not to do anything else without authorization, and Gale agrees to the condition. But before closing the deal, the hero says he'd like to ask one last question. He then questions if it's true that this whole war is over a woman. Griselda and Walter are surprised and nervous at the question, looking at Kai. With a serious look, the Demon Lord simply confirms that yes, it was all true. Gale stares at him for a moment, processing the answer he just received. Suddenly, he starts laughing out loud, finding the situation amusing. He grabs Kai by the shoulder and yells that he thinks it's great, that he loves the idea. Then, he extends his hand, saying he trusts him more than the greedy people of the kingdom. Kai gives a slight smile, seemingly pleased with the mercenary's trust, and with a firm handshake, the two finally seal the deal. The scene changes, showing a giant golden barrier protecting the entire city. A soldier shouts orders, warning that the Paldea Empire has mobilized an army on the border. Desperate, Johann orders them to send 3 divisions as reinforcements immediately. He then thinks that the attack was sudden, and they haven't even dealt with the Demon Lord yet. Johann observes the barrier, thinking that with it, they should be safe for now. Still, he decides it's always better to be safe than sorry. So, he orders everyone to prepare their weapons and keep the defenses on high alert. The Holy Knights obey, getting into formation and ready for any enemy attack. A warrior reports that they have already selected 12 members for the Demon Lord Subjugation Squad, and he also reveals they have a secret weapon, a powerful level booster. Johan adjusts his glasses, stating with certainty that there's no problem with the plan. But suddenly, the guards bring a captured man to speak with him. The prisoner struggles violently, shouting for them to release him as quickly as possible. Johan turns around, looking with contempt at the noise the man was making. Then, the soldiers throw him to the ground, causing the man to scream and cough in pain. Lying on the ground, he curses in anger, frustrated at being captured like that. The cleric then asks what's wrong with the man and what he did. A guard explains that they caught him stealing and that he claims to be a hero named Ares. Johan stares at him, finding it very bold of him to call himself a hero. Johan is shocked, asking if the guard really said the name Ares. He remembers that this was the name of the Austen family, the same family as Kai. On the ground, Ares glares at him with a defiant look, unafraid of the situation. Then, the cleric composes himself and demands that the prisoner show his crest now. He remembers a prophecy that said the hero would come from that noble family, but Ares refuses, shouting angrily and asking who he thinks he is. The cleric tenses up, not expecting such an aggressive reaction from the prisoner. Then, a guard tries to restrain him, but Ares furiously screams not to touch him. The soldier throws him to the ground with force, telling him to be quiet at once. Johan watches the scene with a look of astonishment, surprised by the commotion, and suddenly his eyes widen as he sees a mark on Ares' hand. It was the crest of light, the symbol that belonged only to the true hero. Shocked, he realizes that if Kai wasn't the hero, then it could only be his brother. With his face breaking out in a cold sweat, the terrible truth finally dawns on him. The true hero of the prophecy was Ares, Kai's younger brother. It's revealed that Johan's special ability as a saint is prophecy. With it, he can receive information from the future every 72 hours. The vision showed that the holy capital would be invaded by a large army. Comparing it with the prophecy, he confirms that Ares is, without a doubt, the true hero. On the ground, Ares angrily yells that he's had enough, because he is the true hero. He then demands to be released immediately, and for everyone to bow before him. Johan and the guards get nervous, unsure how to handle the scandal. A soldier holds him down as Johan decides it's time to begin the interrogation. Ares struggles with all his might, but can't break free from the guard's grip. With a serious expression, the cleric orders them to take him to the military base. He becomes desperate, shouting that they saw the crest and will regret this. Johan pays him no mind, simply telling the guard to get a move on and take him away. Outside, he spots the group of hero candidates approaching him. The group's leader announces he has brought the candidates for the hero's official team, and he guarantees that if the capital is attacked, they will also fight to protect it. A warrior explains that the 12 hero candidates are well-tested elite warriors. He adds that their power is comparable to Elsa's, making them valuable. Johan then names them the Subjugation Squad, saying he's counting on them. But the knight questions him, wanting to know if the barrier artifact isn't unprotected. At that, Johan turns to Matteo and orders him to reinforce the guard on the sacred artifact. Matteo just nods, accepting the mission he's just been given. The cleric warns that the task is critical, as the barrier depends on the saint and the artifact. Matteo then looks at his hand, remembering the pact he was forced to make with Kai. Even so, he assures Johan that he can be counted on for this important mission. The scene then changes, and we see Johan walking through the dark corridors of a prison. He calmly descends the stairs, heading towards one of the dungeon cells. Inside, Ares shouts that his father will not forgive what they're doing. The cleric tells the other guards to leave the area. With a smile, Johan says he wants to have a private conversation with him. Ares glares at him with hatred, asking what the hell he wants to talk about. Johan asks if it's true he's from the Austen family, and Ares confirms with arrogance. But then Johan reveals that if he's talking about Lord Geese, he is unfortunately already dead. Ares is shocked by the news, shouting that it has to be a big lie. The cleric then confirms it, stating it's a verified report from the Holy Knights. With a cold gaze, he regrets to inform him that his father was killed by his own son. Desperate, Ares asks if it was his brother, Kai, who committed the crime. With a cruel smile, Johan asks who is going to protect him now that he's all alone. Ares gulps and breaks into a cold sweat, left speechless by the truth. The cleric watches him with superiority, savoring the prisoner's moment of despair. He then concludes that there's no one left to help him, leaving Ares hopeless. Johan starts laughing, shouting who would believe the nonsense about him being a hero. Fallen on the floor, Ares whispers to himself that he really is the true hero. He is speechless, with a blank stare, unable to believe what's happening. Then, Johan lets out a strange laugh, a sinister look on his face. He kneels and says he knows, that he is the hero, leaving Ares completely confused. Johan extends a hand to him, offering help after all the confusion. Ares is completely paralyzed, not understanding the cleric's change in attitude. But Johann looks at him with a sinister smile, revealing his true intentions. He explains that thanks to his ability, he is the only one who can see the truth. A red curse mark appears on Ares' face, startling the young hero. Johann says that apparently, he was cursed to hide his true class. The hero panics, questioning if that was really a real curse. At that, he remembers when he was betrayed and left for dead by his own brother. He then realizes everything, shouting that it was his brother, Kai. Filled with hatred, he yells that Kai must have cursed him back then. Johann then understands the curse, as Ares picks up a sharp object from the floor. With a smile, he manipulates him, asking if he doesn't want revenge for everything. Ares trembles with rage, slowly turning his face towards the cleric. All the memories of suffering and escape flash through his mind at that moment. With a look full of hatred, he stands up and confirms that yes, he wants revenge. Full of hatred, Ares grits his teeth and swears he will kill Kai himself. Johann cracks a victorious smile, satisfied that his manipulation plan worked. Ares then grabs the bars, begging the saint to break the curse right now. The cleric gets annoyed by his audacity, calling him a bastard in his thoughts. But he hides his anger and replies that of course, he will help him with that problem. The hero celebrates wildly, shouting that he's finally getting rid of that curse. However, Johann suddenly interrupts him, warning that there is one condition. Ares stares at him, confused, as he wasn't expecting to have to do anything in return. The two fall silent for a moment as the cleric explains his condition. With sweat on his face, Ares accepts the deal, responding with a "very well." Now outside the cell, he yells, "Great!" feeling powerful next to the guard, and he immediately starts making demands, asking for a royal suite and first-class women. The guard asks if he should do it, but Johann tells him to obey without question. The soldier is in shock, wondering if that man was really the hero from the prophecy. Ares calls him trash, while the guard thinks he will be useful despite his personality. The knight is in shock, asking Johann if that was really the hero, but he says that either way, their combat force is now assembled. Suddenly, a guard comes running, carrying an urgent report about Saint Colette. Johann tells the guard to lower his voice, not realizing someone was already listening. At that moment, Ares, who was nearby, hears the name and discovers that Colette is in the city. At an outpost, the guards scoff, thinking no one would be crazy enough to attack. But hidden in the trees, Kai watched the capital from a distance, waiting for the right moment. With a focused gaze, he prepares to put his plan of attack into action. Suddenly, a flare is fired, lighting up the city's night sky. Griselda and Sasha receive an urgent message about the enemy troops on the move. Griselda says it's thanks to Elsa, leaving the warrior surprised by the compliment. She gets all flustered and stammers that what she did was no big deal. Elsa doesn't understand the reaction, confused by the elf's strange behavior. In the forest, Walter orders everyone to stop, warning them about the 5 watch posts. But he says the demon lord has already prepared a strategy and for everyone to hold their position. Some demons are confused, wondering where the demon lord was after all. But suddenly, one of the posts is attacked by an explosion of dark magic. The guards scream in desperation, warning everyone that an intruder has breached the area. One of them is in shock, as he was casting spells without any incantation. Seeing the magical energy, he realizes it could only be the feared demon lord. Kai turns, facing the watchpost guards with a defiant look. He then activates one of his magic cards, preparing for the coming fight. Just then, a guard spots him and orders the archers to shoot him down at once. A shower of arrows flies toward him, and the guards celebrate, thinking they hit him. But a barrier of dark energy appears, blocking all the arrows with ease. The guard's jaw drops, unable to believe he defended himself without even looking. Kai then realizes his auto-chant worked perfectly as planned. With this, he decides to take the post alone to gain a massive amount of experience. He remains focused, his magic barrier still active and ready for more attacks. We are told this ability costs 2000 EP and activates spells automatically. It counterattacks anything that comes within range, but it consumes a lot of mana in the process. And above all, Kai knew this ability was the key to his victory. Desperate, the guard orders the mage squad to attack with everything they've got. The hooded mages then begin to conjure their fire spells against the hero. Countless fireballs fly toward him, and the guard yells that he won't be able to block them. It's explained that his auto-chant can use multiple spells at the same time. With that, the fire attacks are completely absorbed by his dark energy. One of the mages reports that his mana has run out, leaving the commander in complete despair. He wonders how Kai can cast so many spells, thinking his mana must be infinite. But in reality, Kai was draining his enemy's mana to annihilate them. With a smile, he reveals he has become a perpetual motion machine. The guard is terrified by the sight, realizing he doesn't stand a chance. Suddenly, a dark bolt strikes one of the soldiers, who screams in pain. Soon after, Kai deactivates the ability, Seeing that no one is left at the post, a system message congratulates him on his victory and awards him 500 experience points. In the distance, one of the demons praises him, while Kai already thinks about how to use his points. But suddenly, a small bat demon appears flying toward our hero. Kai calls him Archdemon and asks why he didn't just use telepathy to speak. The creature explains he came as a bodyguard, but Kai tells him to get straight to the point. The demon then gets closer and reports that he has just received new information. The scene focuses on the dark sky, setting the mood for the coming revelation. It is revealed that Johann is now engaged to Saint Colette, shocking the entire kingdom. Kai is completely stunned by the news, unable to believe what he just heard. A red aura of hatred begins to emanate from him, showing all his fury. The demon is startled by his reaction, fearfully calling out Lord Kai's name. The dark aura rises to the heavens as the hero processes this information. With a cold gaze, he finally understands what must be done from now on. Under the moonlight, he orders them to take the capital before the moon sets. The demon agrees with the order and flies off to inform the rest of the army. Walter, Elsa, and the other demons appeared to be in an abandoned village. They arrive at a completely destroyed place, not understanding where the watch posts were. Some of them comment that the whole thing seemed like a big lie. Sasha then smiles and says that this is the path Lord Kai cleared for them. With an excited shout, Griselda orders the entire army to advance to the final battle. The demon soldiers cheer, shouting excitedly as they march toward the capital. The army finally reaches the bridge, and up above, Kai is already waiting for them. A dark and powerful aura emanated from his body, showing his sheer determination. Griselda looks up at him from below, calling out Lord Kai's name with great seriousness. Beside her, Walter says the moment has finally come, looking very tense. The demon soldiers prepare themselves, and from above, Kai orders them all to take their positions. He observes his army, satisfied that there have been no casualties so far. Kai then closes his eyes for a moment, concentrating on what is to come. Then, Griselda shouts for the battle to begin, with Kai leading the charge against the capital. The scene takes us to the west gate of the holy capital, where knights are on watch. A guard comments that the fog has gotten thicker, and the other suspects an enemy spell. Just then, a strange blue light begins to glow in the middle of all that fog. Suddenly, Kai emerges from the smoke, with a serious and determined look. Seeing him, the knights draw their swords, ready for the coming fight. But our dark mage faces them without a hint of fear. One of the guards panics, yelling that the demon lord has finally appeared. Despite their fear, the captain orders the attack, and everyone charges at Kai. They completely surround him, and a soldier points out that he's a mage. The leader then orders them to activate their magic shields, planning to buy some time. Little did he know that an entire army was already waiting for him on the other side of the gate. A knight laughs, mocking Kai for getting past the watch posts alone, but suddenly he feels something strange, and his smile vanishes instantly. Kai unleashes a crushing pressure, and the air around him begins to tremble. The soldiers feel the ground shake and wonder what that terrifying noise is. Suddenly, several orange glints begin to appear in the middle of all the smoke. One of the knights panics, and his companion is attacked by an unseen force. With a gesture, Kai summons an army of undead knights who charge forward with full force. The first victim falls quickly, stabbed in the back with no chance to defend himself. Chaos erupts, with the undead attacking the soldiers from all sides. A soldier notices the enemies are wearing the armor of holy knights, hidden in the fog. He's terrified when he realizes Kai has used the bodies of their fallen comrades. Seen from above, the knights are being massacred, their formation completely broken. The captain shouts in desperation, saying the defensive line fell in an instant. The undead army gives no quarter, violently pushing the knights back. With no other option, the leader orders everyone to fall back to the barrier immediately. But as they flee, a mysterious man appears and blocks their path. He announces he's joining the fight and threatens anyone who tries to run. Then, two more leaders appear, ordering them not to retreat until victory is won. Now surrounded, the knights are stunned, unsure of what's happening. Without mercy, one of the knights is struck down by a fatal dark blow. Seeing this, the mysterious warrior charges with his sword against the army of the undead. With a confident smile, he asks if the monsters have ever tasted the light attribute. He then unleashes a devastating slash of light, using his flash slash technique. The attack is so powerful, it disintegrates the undead in the blink of an eye. The soldiers celebrate, saying the immortal enemies are dropping like flies. By the power of light, another dark knight falls to the ground and begins to dissolve. The warrior and the mage join forces, claiming the dark attribute is nothing. The mage then explains that darkness can be neutralized with light magic. With a spell, he enchants the armor and weapons of all the knights present. A soldier is amazed, feeling the power of light overflowing from his sword. The leader then rallies them, asking if they're ready to kill the demon lord. With their enchanted weapons, the knights turn the tables and charge at the enemy. Watching from afar, Kai realizes the extermination squad has entered the battle. With that, he leaps from the rooftop, preparing for his next move. Even from a distance, Kai feels his mana being drained by the powerful light magic. He realizes he needs to thin out the enemy forces first, as he has no other choice. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the violent struggle continues without a moment's pause. The holy knights fall one by one, leaving a trail of blood on the ground. But suddenly, a powerful light shines in the sky, drawing everyone's attention. Kai and the other leaders look up, wondering what the hell that is. It was a resurrection spell, covering the entire battlefield with its light. With that, the knights who were dead begin to rise from the ground. One of the soldiers is completely baffled by the situation, unable to understand. The warrior is shocked, wondering if they've really come back to life. All who died in the battle rise, returning to their combat formation. Behind it all, the cleric Johann smiles, revealing himself as the one responsible. The group's leader praises Johann, saying his reputation is well-deserved. The cleric simply adjusts his glasses, a cold and calculating look on his face. He then stares at our hero from a distance and asks if he isn't Kai Austin. Kai hears the cleric's words, feeling the weight of that humiliation. Johann scoffs, saying his invasion as the demon lord was pathetic. Just then, an undead knight charges at the cleric with its sword, but he stops the blow with a single hand, saying that purging demons is his specialty. With a sadistic smile, he reveals himself as a powerful purifier from the church. Then, he releases an immense wave of holy energy across the entire battlefield. He explains that this is the holy flame of purification, contained within his book. Johann warns that Kai thought he was invading, but now he's the one who's cornered. He continues to taunt him, saying the mage couldn't even break the capital's barrier. And with that, the army of undead he created vanishes in an instant. The scene shows Colette from behind, watching everything from a window. To make matters worse, Johann reveals that even the woman Kai loved now belongs to him. Filled with hatred, our hero glares at the cleric who calls him a wretch. But to everyone's surprise, Kai begins to laugh mockingly. The cleric is confused by his reaction and asks what's so funny. Kai then apologizes and reveals that this was never his real plan. At this, the extermination squad goes on alert, not understanding what he meant. Suddenly, Johann senses the danger and desperately screams for everyone to fall back now. But it was too late, and a gigantic explosion erupts right in the middle of the city. With a furious look, the warrior Elsa prepares to go all out. She charges with her sword, screaming and unleashing an explosive attack against the barrier. With that, a part of the city is hit head-on by another giant explosion. Johann's group realizes they're surrounded, and that the barrier is under attack. He panics, knowing that area is weak and the plan could fail. Desperate, Johann declares it's all over and leaves the demon lord to them. But the group's leader gets angry, shouting and asking where that coward thinks he's going. Without a word, the cleric uses a spell and simply vanishes into the smoke. The warrior realizes it was just an illusion, as Johann would never go to the front lines. The smoke begins to clear, revealing the path that was opened amidst the chaos. From a distance, Kai watches everything with a cold gaze, seeing his real plan come to fruition. The scene shifts to the Chamber of Relics, where two guards hear the sound of the explosion. Then, young Matteo asks his partner to check it out, saying he'll be fine alone. The guard agrees and leaves, falling right into his partner's trap. Alone, Matteo reveals that Kai's real objective is to destroy the sacred relic. In a flashback, we see Johann ordering the use of more test subjects, with no regard for their lives. Matteo is horrified as he witnesses his superior's cruelty. Back in the present, he thinks about faith, but realizes he has already lost his. With that, he unleashes his power and destroys the sacred relic in an explosion. The scene returns to the gate, where a leader shouts for them to assess the situation after the chaos. A mage asks what exploded, and if the front line was breached by the enemy, but a new silhouette emerges from the smoke, leaving the mage completely confused. It was a cat girl, with sharp claws and a fierce, determined gaze. With absurd speed, she rushes forward and attacks the mage in front. The man doesn't even have time to react, his throat slit in an instant. She stands there amidst the bodies of the mages she just defeated. Then the girl lets out a meow, which was actually a signal to attack. With that, an army of demons and mercenaries emerges in full force from the smoke. Their leader shouts loudly, ordering the entire army to advance now. The mages panic, realizing they are now surrounded by enemies. The purple-haired girl charges forward, leading the massacre against the mages. The survivors try to flee desperately, screaming in fear from the surprise attack. But a squadron of knights appears, and their leader warns that they've gone too far. Annoyed, the mercenary chief faces him and asks who they think they are. With an arrogant smile, the knight reveals they are the subjugation squad. The mercenary then yells at Elsa, complaining that the barrier hasn't been broken yet. She replies with a smile, telling them not to interfere and to attack again. The mercenary leader agrees instantly, ready to continue the invasion. He then orders his men not to let the knights interfere with the plan. At that, one of the knights laughs like a madman, saying he'll finish them all right there. But the mercenary blocks the attack, and the shocked knight asks if he's even human. Seeing that absurd strength, the knight becomes furious and calls him a traitor. The mercenary is confused for a second, not understanding the accusation. Then he uses an enhancement ability, and his sword glows with full power. With a smile, he recalls that it was the humans who betrayed him first. With his empowered sword, the mercenary attacks and easily defeats the knight. Elsa watches the scene from afar, a victorious smile on her face. Seeing the defeat, one of the leaders desperately shouts to regroup the rest of the squad. Then, the knights surround Elsa and the mercenary, trying to stop their advance. The situation in front of the city gate grows increasingly chaotic and violent. Far away, Johann runs in terror, unable to believe Kai was just a decoy. He then sees Elsa and realizes that dangerous woman is also from the demon tribe. The cleric grows tense, understanding his plan is spiraling out of control, but the warrior spots him from a distance and yells, telling him to watch what she's about to do. With that, she boosts her sword's power using enhancement and a dark attribute. With a frightening smile, Elsa warns that she won't be holding back now. The mercenary points out she's using a demonic sword, and Johann panics at the sight of the weapon. Then she releases her limiter, and a red aura explodes from her body with full force. Johann panics, knowing that with this power, the Great Barrier will fall. Desperate, he screams for her to stop and unleashes a holy arrow with all his might. The holy arrow flies forward, taking the warrior Elsa completely by surprise. With a crazed smile, Johann screams for her to just die already. But suddenly, a wall of shadows appears and blocks the holy attack. It was Kai, who appeared out of nowhere to protect his battle companion. He glares at the cleric with a serious expression, showing he's not playing around. Johann panics, asking how the demon lord got there so fast. Calmly, Kai replies that he simply defeated everyone in his path. On the ground, we see the bodies of the entire squad that faced him earlier. The cleric is terrified by his strength, saying that this is insane. Seeing Kai's power, Elsa says with a smile that she understands how he feels. Then Kai shouts her name, giving her the signal to finish the plan. With a wicked smile, Elsa confirms she got the message loud and clear. Johann grows even more desperate, screaming and begging for them to stop. Far away, Matteo uses black flames and finally destroys the sacred relic. With that, Elsa unleashes her black flame slash attack with full force. The blast of dark energy hits the Great Barrier, causing a massive impact. The holy shield begins to crack, unable to withstand the pressure. Johann is in disbelief, watching his most powerful defense being destroyed.